Welcome everyone to Monday Night Racing live here on Out of the Groove. This is the Out of the Groove pre-race show. We are in fact live, and to prove it, reading the chat right now, good to see Noah Coleman here, Raw Gator, Rich Discoveries. I like that name. How's it going? We got plenty more in the chat. Thank you guys for being here bright and early ahead of the game. You guys have a one-up on the competition. How's it going, NASCAR Stop Motion? How'd you get that username? My goodness, there's probably like a bajillion people out there that would kill to have the official NASCAR Stop Motion username. Well done. But how's it going? Good to see everyone trickling in here. Just like last week, gonna kind of start the stream off just by kind of introducing Monday Night Racing to all of you and answering any questions you may have. Tonight, our 10 remaining playoff drivers will begin the second round of the playoffs at Las Vegas in the trucks. Now, I was watching a little bit of practice before this pre-race show began. There's some hot temperatures out there, closing in on 130 degrees of track temp. Guys slipping and sliding. Could see a pack race, could see tire wear and tire fall off come into play. So it's going to be a great show tonight. Again, this is the third race of the Monday Night Racing Season 5 playoffs, but it's the first race of the second round. We had 3 drivers go home effectively after last week's race. So this is sure to be an exciting one to kick off the next round. How's it going, everyone? Good to see you, John P., Abel, King Randy, Cito Brown. Always good to see you guys. A lot of familiar faces in the chat. Melissa Skate House, I like that. Truck Night in America. That is true. We are doing Trucks Night. Truck's always a good show. Always put on spectacular events, and at intermediate tracks, I expect nothing less. So, everyone watching right now, who's here for the first time? Is this their first Monday Night Racing stream that they've attended? This is the third we've done, and I feel like I'm seeing some new names. So hopefully, if y'all have any questions, if y'all have any concerns, because this is something a little different than what's used to being seen on my channel, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to answer. But yeah, it's good to see so many of you guys. Ethan Brooks, good to see you. Darian, good to see you. First time tuning in. Hope you're in, I'm sure you're in for a treat. Hope you have a good time watching. Xavier, first time. Million Comb, first time. All right, then what do you guys need to know? It's iRacing, it's trucks. We've got some real world NASCAR drivers in this series, some other industry veterans. We've also got some fantastic sim racers in this series in the playoffs. Here, I'll just give you guys a brief rundown of the 10 drivers who are still eligible for the Season 5 championship. We've got Presley Sora, David Shieldhouse, Anthony Alfredo, Max Kennan, James Bickford, Ryan Vargas, Will Rogers, Adam Cabot, Gary Sexton, and Colin Fern. And there are several other real-world drivers. I know Corey Heim racing tonight. He won last week. So we've got a really interesting balance, a variety of personalities in this series, in this race tonight. And what I love about Monday Night Racing, and I've said this the last couple weeks if you guys have watched up to this point, I love the variety in tracks and vehicles. Like race Miatas on a road course a couple weeks ago. Last week was Xfinity cars. This week it's trucks at Las Vegas, a toasty, hot Las Vegas. You never know what you're going to get. Next week, of course, ARCA cars at Daytona. Going to be some ARCA night in America. Can't wait for that. But how's everybody doing? Yeah, we're hosting tonight. How long is the pre-race show? Just about less than half an hour. We got some fun segments coming up. Get to know some of the drivers a little better coming up in just a moment. But for now, it's just me. You're stuck with me, just a talking head here, which is beautiful, which is lovely. Which number truck should we watch out for tonight? That's a good question for the broadcast booth. We'll bring them in here in a short while, and we'll all give you our picks, give you kind of a crash course on who some of the favorites are. I've got my eye on Ryan Vargas, but Corey Heim has looked pretty darn fast the few weeks he's been racing Monday Night Racing, so I think he's always a safe pick as well. So, but stay tuned. We'll be going through some of the favorites here in just a little bit. How many cars or / trucks are there? Well, there's 10 playoff drivers, but we got, last week we had over 30. I think the first 2 weeks we've had over 30 race, so I would expect a similar number tonight. Don't know exactly how many are going to make it out to Las Vegas, but should be a pretty good-sized field. Will we see the 43 car slipping and sliding like last week at Texas? I was going to say we can only hope, but honestly, I don't think we'll get lucky 2 weeks in a row with that car not causing a massive crash. No, Leighton Sabile was half the show last week, running a couple laps down, but basically on the rims, sliding around Old Texas. So hopefully, we all love some tire fall-off, some good old-fashioned tire wear, but hopefully nothing quite that dramatic, that hazardous breaks out tonight. We'll have to know. Yeah, welcome, Travis. We do have some professional NASCAR stars racing, some fantastic sim racers racing tonight as well. So stay tuned. Should be a pretty stacked field. Sometimes I don't even know who's all going to race until qualifying boots up and we see who's in the server. Like, I know who the playoff drivers are, but we don't even know. There could be some surprises, hidden surprises that sneak up on us last minute. So, how long is the race? How much will tires play a factor? It's hot. And I know running on 70% fuel load, so that's going to probably force maybe a few more pit stops. It's a 110 lap race. 110 lap race, so it should present some opportunity for strategy. We've seen these last two races actually come down to some form of strategy. So yeah, I would expect that to come into play once again here today. And I'm getting word that right now there are 29 cars in the server making practice laps out on the speedway. So closing in on that 30 mark for the third week in a row. But good to see you guys. Some bets being placed on Adam Cabot. I mentioned a bunch of the playoff drivers a second ago. Do we have any early predictions, early picks from the chat before the experts weigh in here in just a few moments? Again, Presley Sora, Anthony Alfredo, David Shieldhouse, Max Kennan. In fact, there you see him on the screen. There's the playoff standings as we begin this second round. You can see them for yourself. Any favorites among that bunch? Of course, there are some other drivers not on the screen here that are in the race tonight that for sure will have a chance at playing spoiler. But yeah, let me know down in the chat. And yes, drivers will get one fast repair tonight. I see Skatehouse asking that in the chat. Already some Vargas fans. I see some Fast Pasta in the chat already. Bickford, James Bickford getting a shout out in the chat. So already a variety of drivers getting some shout outs here from the live chat here on YouTube. But yeah, should be a great show. We've got a couple fun segments coming up. A lot of real world drivers in this series, but some other drivers and personalities that perhaps you guys haven't met before. Perhaps you guys haven't had the chance to see in action, to hear from. So in just a few moments, we'll be talking to a few of those drivers live. We've got some feature segments right around the corner. But yeah, Will Rogers, a bunch of Alfredo. Some people misspelling Anthony Alfredo, but that's okay. I think I know who they're trying to say. Eric, have you ever been to Las Vegas? A few times, yes. It's a very nice track. If you've never been to a race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, it may look like any other mile and a half on the circuit, but it's very nice. It holds up very well. So absolutely consider attending the race there later this fall. Yeah, second week in a row, I feel like we've had a lot of Anthony Alfredo plugs in the chat, so definitely seems like a clear front runner right there. But tonight, that's right, Monday Night Racing goes to Las Vegas Motor Speedway in the trucks. After this week, the second race, the final race of this round, will be at Daytona in the ARCA cars. And then there are just 3 races to go. Auto Club Speedway in Indy cars, Atlanta in the new next gen car, and then the championship race will be later this month, the end of August, at Homestead Miami Speedway in the trucks. So that's going to be an interesting wrinkle to tonight's race. They're racing trucks tonight at a mile and a half, a different mile and a half, a very different mile and a half than Homestead Miami, but this could be a prelude to what we see in the finale. Whoever's fast here tonight could emerge as one of the top championship threats and contenders. Thanks for the kind words, Ryan Fulldark. I appreciate that. Commander Sealand saying Shieldhouse looking fast and stable in the long run. All right, so we got some analysis right here going on in the chat. Cito Brown dropping the Las Vegas gamble puns in the chat. Wouldn't be a Las Vegas race broadcast without some of those. Eric, compare the heat in Las Vegas to the heat in Texas. Which is the hotter state? Oh, well, Las Vegas is a city, to be fair, but no, I know what you're saying. I have no idea. I live in Texas. It feels very, very toasty here, but I have a feeling parts of Nevada are worse. I do not envy folks living in Las Vegas in the summer. I think heat's going to be on the tip of everyone's tongue here tonight. Track temperature is real hot. A lot of drivers slipping and sliding. Tire wear going to come into play. But before we take the green flag tonight, Truck Series at Las Vegas, we need to meet some of our playoff drivers. So we've had some fun the last few weeks, asked drivers various questions about how they won their first iRacing, their favorite video games outside of racing. This week, though, because we're racing in Las Vegas, a city that seems to be on the rise, a lot of professional sports teams now moving to Las Vegas, lobbying to try and move to Las Vegas, I figured I'd ask the group of Monday Night Racing playoff drivers who their favorite sports teams are outside of racing. And we got some pretty interesting responses. So check it out. First segment of the night. Do you have any favorite sports teams outside of racing?
I am a diehard Minnesota Twins fan and a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan.
How does that work? How does Minnesota and the Philadelphia connect?
So my grandfather has always been a Minnesota Twins fan, was always a huge fan of Hardman Killebrew. And then my uncle grew up in the time of Kirby Puckett and the Twins. And then I grew up in the time of Joe Mauer and the Twins. So we each had like one person we followed that stayed with the Twins their whole career.
Just around Charlotte, the Carolina Panthers, always go to those games. I try to catch a couple Hornets games with my buddies a lot. And I know hockey season just ended, but I really like the Hurricanes. My buddies are real into hockey, so I just kind of follow along with what they talk about all the time in our group chats.
I was a pretty big Giants fan, and then fantasy football kind of ruined being a fan of any particular team for me. And
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I was a big Yankees fan as well. So I'm from New Jersey, so just kind of stuck with the local teams.
We've gone everywhere to watch the Twins play. That was the funniest thing though when we went to Fenway is like the Twins. Nobody hates the Twins. You can't like. There's no reason to hate the Twins.
Boston hates everyone though.
Well, Boston, when Correa came up to bat, you would have thought the Yankees just showed up. Like it was the craziest booze.
Favorite sports teams outside of racing? New England Patriots for football. I am somewhat of a New Englander, obviously coming from Connecticut. There's a lot of football teams up that way, but New England was always my favorite. Other than football, I would say I follow a lot of eSports. So obviously being a part of Exit Gaming, I pull for their teams and a variety of different competitive gaming series.
No, not really. I'm not really loyal to any teams outside of racing. I mean, I like the Reds in baseball, but I could be persuade other ways.
Outside of racing, that's kind of hard because all I really follow is racing, but all kinds of forms of racing. I'm a Ravens fan because my whole family's from Baltimore or the Baltimore area, so
Pretty much all racing all the time.
yeah. Although I love golf, and those aren't really teams or what have you, but I do follow some golfers. Ricky Fowler, obviously somebody from California near my age. I've got some mutual friends of his, and he's somebody I've been following for a long time. And
I grew up in Pennsylvania. I was born in Philadelphia. So all Phillies for baseball, Eagles for football. Not a huge hockey fan, but I guess I would root for the Flyers and 76ers.
Yeah, I am a born and bred Ohio State Buckeyes fan. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, so I've been a Buckeyes fan my whole life, which certainly comes with its own challenges, depending on the year. But as long as we beat Michigan, that's all that really matters.
I used to be a huge fan of the Phoenix Suns and the New Orleans Saints, mostly because I played a lot of sports as a kid, and we were on the Napa Saints, and I became a huge Reggie Bush fan. So if you're wondering why, like most of my racing, number 25, and that's like my preference number, it's because of an influence of Reggie Bush. And then on the Phoenix Suns, I was a huge Steve Nash fan. So don't watch too much now, but those are my two teams that I pull for.
I like it.
So I watch a little bit of sports, not a whole lot. My family on my mom's side, I was kind of vetted to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan my entire life.
I didn't expect that because you're from California, right? How's that happen?
It's just, my grandfather, he was the biggest Pittsburgh Steelers fan I've ever known or met. He's the biggest sports fan I ever met. He would sit on TV just scream at the Steelers because they would continuously lose. So
we actually went to a Mets and Twins game. I was probably 12 years old, and my best friend Austin Paula went with me. We started chanting "Yankees suck" because we hate the Yankees. Like they buy championships. We don't want the Yankees to do good. Anyway, two 12-year-olds got the entire stadium. I believe it was Shea Stadium. Got all of Shea Stadium to chant "Yankees suck" in the middle of a Twins Mets game. So that was probably the coolest thing I've ever been a part of.
Awesome stuff. I asked the chat as well, all 180 live viewers we have here on YouTube, who their favorite sports teams outside of racing are, and a wide variety. I like Charles's pick there as a Houstonian myself. I respect that pick quite a bit. I'm probably one of the few that respect that pick, but a lot of good stuff. Appreciate you guys watching. Now, you might have noticed in there Presley Sora didn't really have an answer. He is all racing all the time. He doesn't watch much any other sports outside of motorsport. So we didn't get too great a peek behind the curtain on Presley Sora there. But we did get to sit down and talk to him a little more recently and get a little more insight into his racing background, what drew him to iRacing, and a whole lot more. So now let's talk to Presley Sora and get to know the driver of the 98 just a little bit better.
He is already a champion of Monday Night Racing, but he happened to be a rookie searching for his first Pro Series championship. Last season's Road to Glory champion, Presley Sora, fighting for a Monday Night Racing Season 5 title. You're getting yourself quite the name in the iRacing industry and community. Take me through, how did you find iRacing and what does it mean to you right now?
It had to have been close to 8 years ago probably in the Coke Series, and I started watching those races and I didn't really understand what was going on. Like I knew that there were actual people driving the cars, but I didn't understand the logistics of it. I watched those races, learned the drivers, and then eventually, I mentioned it to my dad, and I was like, "Hey, we need to check this out because this is really cool, and this could be, the next branch for me in racing." And we got in on the eNASCAR Ignite series, and then from there, I've just progressed up and found my way in the Monday Night Racing Pro Series, and I've had a pretty good season so far.
Between the loss in ERL to Adam Cabot and the championship last season in Road to Glory, what was that like for you to lose that championship and then redemption and glory in Road to Glory?
The ERL championship still stings because I would like to win that, but yeah, it basically came down to me and Adam and pretty much whoever finished highest in that last race, which was Xfinity Cars Auto Club. He got me at the very end because I burnt my tires up. I actually learned from that race the tire saving, and that really helped me for the Road to Glory championship because it was the same car and track combination. So once we got there, I knew same car, same track, I'm not making the same mistake that I did last time. I've known about Monday Night Racing since it started, and I've wanted to get in it for so long. And then when I missed out on ERL, I thought, well, there was my one shot. I blew it. And then Road to Glory came about, and I put a lot of practice into that to win that championship and win as many races as I did.
How much real-world racing experience do you have? And how exactly can you take any of that and try to put it back in the sim world where you've been for so long?
I started out in Pinewood Derby racing in Cub Scouts, and then moved on to Soapbox Derby racing, which is very fun, by the way. It's completely different to anything else in racing. I was the first ever co-rookie of the year with my younger brother in that. So we got that in the Indianapolis Soapbox Derby. After that, I did karting for a few years in Indianapolis at IMS, and I did really good at that, won a lot of races. And then that's where I moved into iRacing. So it was either late March or early April. I did the Rusty Wallace racing experience, and it was so much fun. I did it at IRP. It only ignited the flame even more. Now I just want to get into something else even faster and actually get in a race with it because that was so much fun.
That was awesome. Appreciate Devin there helping us get to know Presley Sora a bit more. And actually, I believe we have a way here to dial up Presley live. Presley Sora, good to see you. Do you got me?
I got you.
Sweet deal. Awesome. And we got a video. We got a face cam on you. This is beautiful, face to face through the power of the internet. Presley, you come into this second round. You came into the first round, I guess, in the same position, but you're the points leader. You have, as big of a cushion as anyone can hope to have in the Monday Night Racing series. So how do you approach the first race of this round and obviously just this round in general?
Yeah, I'm really looking for a good night tonight because next week's Daytona, and as everybody knows, Daytona is going to be wild. So I'm hoping I'd like to get a top 5 tonight. I'd really like to win, but if I can get a top 5, then I'll be really happy going into next week, and hopefully that'll be enough of a buffer in case I get wrecked.
Yeah, Las Vegas, it looks like just any other intermediate, any other mile and a half, but you're racing the trucks. From what we've seen in practice, some pretty harsh temperatures. So do you feel like tonight's race could turn into more of a wild card, or does that play to your strengths?
It definitely could be a wild card. Vegas kind of depends on the temperatures with the trucks and how the setup is. It can be just a super speedway race with drafting, but with the way the temperatures are in this session, it may be more strung out. And it is very hard to drive. So hopefully it's not a wreck fest, but the racing should be pretty good. I know that me and David went probably 5 or 6 laps in practice, just door to door and throwing sliders on each other. So I'm hoping it's a little less drafting and more kind of lifting and tire management, but we'll see. It could go either way here. I have no clue.
And how would you assess your start to the playoffs? Obviously, you made it to this second round, but didn't find victory lane either first 2 races. Do you feel like you're where you need to be going into these final few races?
Yeah, the first round was kind of meh. The first race, I ran fast and got involved in a couple crashes, and I think I finished 13th, which it's not bad, but it's not really good either. But I mean, it did the job to get me to the next round. And then kind of same for last week. I was fast early, and then I just kind of, I don't know if it was the tire wear that got me or what, but I fell down to 10th, I think, at the finish. And like Daytona, it wasn't good, and it wasn't bad either. It was just I was just kind of there turning laps. But I mean, if I can do that and finish decent, then with the buffer I already have, I should be in pretty good shape. It's better than wrecking. So I will take a slow race where I just kind of mind my business and get a decent finish any day over crashing.
Absolutely. Well, looking at tonight's race, you're obviously one of the favorites, but is there any other drivers out there that you feel are kind of, the ones to watch out for? Is there, if it does turn into a drafting race, do you have any friends out there? Like, how are your allies and rivals sort of lined up for this event?
Yeah, so if it is a drafting race, I'll be good with the Crypto Autosport guys. So we've got, I think, 4 of us in this race tonight. Sometimes it varies depending on people's schedules, but so if it is drafting, that'll be fine. David is going to be fast. Anthony's going to be fast. Vargas will be fast. Other than that, I'm not really sure. Those were the 3 that kind of stood out to me in practice, but I was right up there mixing up with them. So it'll be one of us, I think, as long as the night goes smooth and, no big incidents or mishaps for any of us.
Awesome stuff. Well, good luck tonight. We had your car featured on the thumbnail there. Good looking paint scheme. Appreciate you being a part of this. Good luck tonight, Presley. We'll be watching.
All right. Thank you.
So that was Presley Sora. He comes into this second round as the points leader. He came into the entire playoffs, like I said, as the points leader, collected the most playoff points during the regular season. So here in just a few moments, we'll bring in another playoff driver. We have, I know, David Shieldhouse lined up. And I'm also getting word that there must have been like a winter or polar vortex that blew through Las Vegas because we've been talking about those hot, slick temperatures. Sounds like that may or may not actually, in fact, be the case for this race. We'll talk about that more when we bring the booth guys in shortly. But next up, we have David Shieldhouse, who won the opening race of the playoffs. He enters the second round here, the round of 10, in a good position. David, how's it going? Good luck tonight. How you doing?
Well, hello there, Eric Estep. How are we doing tonight? I'm doing well. Just getting up to speed here at Las Vegas. Hot and slick Las Vegas, but I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling really good. We're top of the charts, and I got a lot of confidence. I think this is one of those races that is going to bring the skill gap into play. It's going to put it all on the driver ability, because we're going to be slipping and sliding. So, yeah, put it in the driver's hands. That's what I like.
Yeah, we just talked to Presley Sora, unsure if this is going to be a pack race or more of, like you just said, a tire fall off, a tire wear kind of race. Which plays more to your strengths, would you say?
We do enough pack racing in this league. We're going to be doing it next week at Bumpy Daytona. So any opportunity we get to get spread out and put it in the driver's hands to allow the ability and skill to separate the field and showcase what we can do as individuals, I'm always about that.
And how do you feel about the trucks? I think trucks are always kind of their own beast. Do you feel like that's a good setup or a good platform, so to speak, to race at Las Vegas tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the truck. We did trucks at Las Vegas earlier this year in Road to Pro Round 1, and that was a beast all in its own self. But the trucks race great around this track. This is one of the best ovals on the service. It truly has 3 lanes, and if you work them right, you can use them to your advantage. So I think that's one of the big things you're going to see here tonight that you may not necessarily see in other races, and certainly we didn't see last week. You're going to see guys in the bottom, in the middle, up against the wall, trying to find grip as the run goes on, assuming we get long green flag runs. And that's one of the most unique things about this track is you can really run all 3 lanes with great success.
Yeah, and you mentioned it a second ago. Tonight's race, hopefully, be put back in the driver's hands fully. But next week, Daytona, ARCA cars. So this round could be a bit of a wild card. How important is it to be good tonight at Las Vegas?
It's everything. That's why it was so big to win at the start of the last round, because then you sort of just relax for the second race of that round. And especially for a crapshoot race like Daytona, you don't want to go in there with your corner up against or your back up against the wall. You don't want to paint yourself into a box where you have to have a good run at a track and a combo that a lot of stuff's out of your control. So when you have a race where a lot of things are in your control, like tonight, you got to maximize that. So that's the plan for me. Win, or at very worst, get the most amount of points that I can.
Well, we'll be watching that 20 truck. Always looks good, no matter what vehicle it's stamped on. Always looks good out there. Thanks for joining us before the race here, David. Good luck tonight.
I appreciate it, Eric, and hello to everybody watching out there. Hope you enjoy the race tonight. Cheer on the number 20 Xyloware Chevy Silverado.
I love that. Nothing like a good self-plug, self-promotion right before he takes the green flag. That was David Shieldhouse, one of our 10 remaining playoff drivers. Now, lastly, before we are set to begin opening ceremonies and before I bring the booth in, we've got Gary Sexton, another playoff driver, joining us live. Now, we just talked to Presley Sora, who's the 1 seed. David Shieldhouse not too far behind him. Gary, you're the first guy we've talked to tonight who's right there on and around the cut line. So how much added pressure is on you tonight at Las Vegas?
Man, there's a lot. I think this is the farthest I've gone in the playoffs in this league so far. So yeah, there's a ton of pressure right now with Daytona looming on the horizon next week. Old Daytona, nonetheless. You never know how those races are going to go, and so yeah, you want to have the best finish you can going in there. Especially if someone in the especially if a playoff guy doesn't win tonight, then none of us are safe next week, and it's going to be a pretty sleepless week. So yeah, but we look forward to the race today. I think I have some speed, and yeah, I like being the underdog in the playoffs. This time around, I think we're gonna surprise some people.
Trucks at Las Vegas. Is this something that you feel fits right into your wheelhouse? The fans watching hope can see on screen kind of your rating, if you will, at the various types of tracks. But is this something that a race that you had circled on your calendar coming into the season?
I definitely didn't have it circled. Last time we ran here, we ran the next gens, and I finished 3rd. So I'm not bad here. I'm not a big 1.5 mile fan when it comes to iRacing. I do better at the short tracks and the more unique style tracks where it takes a little more I don't want to say skill, but it takes just a little more rhythm and braking and stuff like that. So we'll see how tonight goes. Like I said, I'm gonna feel the truck out here. We had to make a last minute setup change because a lot of these guys were too scared to run the one we had. So I'm gonna have to feel the track out for a little bit, and then once we get a good handle on the truck, we'll see how aggressive we need to be to get to the front.
Well, this is already a wild card round with Daytona looming, and now last-minute setup changes. What else can be thrown at you guys? Thanks for joining us, Gary. Good luck tonight. We'll be looking for that number 1 truck.
I appreciate it, Eric. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. So that concludes our sort of a virtual grid walk, if you will. No drivers are getting into the session now. Qualifying, I believe, is right around the corner. That's going to do it, though, for the Out of the Groove pre-race show. Appreciate everyone tuning in here a little early. I do want to bring in now the gentleman who will be leading the broadcast today. We have Kenneth Bueno and Jacob Hitz joining us. Gentlemen, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Eric. Thank you also to Devin for his awesome pre-race show segments. Jacob,
We are ready for the start of the round of 10. 10 drivers left. We had 3 eliminated off the cusp of our race at Legacy, Texas just 1 week ago. And this is ultimately going to be a tale of two cities once again. A track and a combo tonight that'll require a lot more finesse, require a lot more skill to get around this 1.5-mile oval. And then we'll have bumpy Daytona with the ARCA cars next week. But tonight is all going to be about setting off on the right foot with a playoff field that is as tight as it could ever be.
Well, and you got to keep in mind that this is pretty much a cutoff race in and of itself, just because of how unpredictable Daytona could be next week. So a lot of guys that I think are toward the cut line right now, like an Adam Cabot, Colin Fern, Gary Sexton, they're all thinking, I have to finish perfect here tonight in order to have a shot next week when we go to Daytona. So they're not quite relying on the luck factor next week, but relying on the points that they have kind of tucked away after tonight. It's going to be interesting nonetheless, though. These drivers getting used to this racetrack, getting used to the trucks. We just ran the trucks a couple of weeks ago at Michigan, but it's a completely different ball game from Michigan, that 2-mile D-shaped oval, to come to Las Vegas, the 1.5-mile track.
That's definitely true, but also in the same vein, a couple of weeks from now, when we deduce our field to the championship 4, we're racing at a 1.5-mile oval, Homestead of Miami Speedway, with these very trucks. So there is somewhat of a preview we can have tonight. Of course, the conditions will be very different, yes, but if you are able to master this truck at a 1.5-mile oval in this type of configuration, you may be well set for Homestead of Miami Speedway if you get to that certain point. Of course, drivers putting in laps in practice right now, Jacob, but like you said, playoffs are going to be so unpredictable with the fact that we basically have a tale of two cities on either side. Super Speedway style racing where looks like anybody can get the win, and then you have these tracks that definitely tailor more to the drivers who really wheel these cars around the track. And last week showed us that. Legacy Texas with the Xfinity Series cars. But one thing that struck out to me the most, Jacob, was the fact that we didn't have a playoff driver win Texas. We had a non-playoff spoiler in there. Corey High, making his second intermediate start, went to victory lane for the second straight time. He's 2 for 2, and that means that basically anyone, Jacob, can put their foot in the game. It's not just about the playoff drivers setting their best foot forward for that next race that's going to be as unpredictable as ever. It's about avoiding the chaos from the non-playoff drivers who are trying their best to get wins in the season.
Well, and you say 2 for 2. He's 2 for 4 on the season, 2 for 2 in the Xfinity car this season. He's run the last 4 races. He finished 6th when we were at Michigan. I'll be honest, I don't like the odds of the 51 tonight. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he's going to come away with the win and kind of surprise me. I'm not banking too high on that 51 of Corey Heim. I'm thinking other guys are going to outrun him. And just because this is a familiar track for the most part, we've run here multiple times in the past, just not with the trucks. So actually, I think we did run the trucks a couple of seasons ago back in season 2, but we've run the Cup cars the last couple of times we've been here. I'm really interested to see how those playoff guys are going to handle this racetrack. You look at average finish as far as intermediate tracks are concerned, high atop the board. You've got these guys that are in the playoffs, Colin Fern, David Shieldhouse, right up there in the thick of it. Those are 2 guys that I think are going to do really, really well tonight, just because this fits right into their wheelhouse. Alfredo is another. You've got Ryan Vargas. He's pretty darn good at these racetracks as well. And you can't forget about Will Rogers. He could kind of sneak in there and maybe put himself in victory lane. All bets are off for these playoff drivers, and I think the guys that have the green banners and spoilers on their trucks are going to have the best shot to win tonight.
And you know what? The bulk of those names that you just mentioned, a lot of them have wins with these trucks. Not necessarily at this type of combo specifically like this track, but at many other tracks across the M&R calendar in series history, you have a good amount of those drivers who have taken a checkered flag with those trucks and have done a good job at doing just that, handling these high downforce and pretty low horsepower trucks, but still a lot of fun to drive. But Jacob, I think it's our favorite part of our show tonight on our pre-race segment. Let's head into picks. Why don't we here from Las Vegas? Make some gambles and we'll see if we can hit the jackpot tonight. Of course, Blake McCandless not here tonight, traveling back from the weekend at Indianapolis, the IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader. So wishing him some safe travels, and hopefully we'll see him next week with the bumpy Daytona and ARCA car combo. But Eric Eastep, you brought us in for the pre-race show. I think it's fair we give you the first pick. Who you got tonight?
I'm taking Ryan Vargas. You know, I was watching some practice, and I know very harsh conditions out there at Las Vegas, but he seemed very, very quick. I know last week we had a non-playoff driver spoil the party, if you will, but I think this week things will get back on track. I'm looking at that 6-car Ryan Vargas to find victory lane.
Very good pick. Ryan Vargas was a winner with the trucks, and I mentioned both of those names that Jacob had talked about. Ryan Vargas is one of them. He was a winner at Knoxville Raceway with the trucks a while back. Jacob, you are next on the board. Who you got?
Well, you stole my pick, first of all, but it's okay. I really
like with Blake, and it happened with you, man. It's tough out here.
I really like that Colin Fern pick, and I'll explain why here, and maybe take a little bit of your thunder. I'm picking Adam Cabot. Again, looking at average finish on the intermediate tracks all time throughout all of the seasons that these guys have run. Obviously, some have run more than others. You look at average finish for those in the playoffs at these intermediate tracks. Colin Fern's average finish, 8.6, highest amongst all drivers left in the playoffs. Second is Cabot, 8.78. The last 2 times we've come here to Las Vegas. Third place, I think, in Season 3 in the Cup cars. In Season 4, he finished in 5th. Colin Fern won that race. Cabot finished second a week ago when we were at yet another 1.5 miles at Texas in the Xfinity cars. Give me that 17. I'll take Adam Cabot.
Adam Cabot, your defending champion, of course, so running over Blake's pick, Corey Heim. He's been undefeated with the Xfinity cars, and he's done rather well in his starts here in Monday Night Racing. As for me, I'm going to go with Colin Fern, that 86. I'm sorry, Jacob, I stole the pick there a little bit early, but I like Colin Fern here, especially with this truck and with the combo we have tonight. Last time we were here at Las Vegas, Colin Fern ran away with the win in the final laps against who other than 2-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Busch in the last laps. And with the Cup Series cars, they have more power than these trucks, but the high downforce is somewhat the same. You got to drive them with the same finesse that you would in each and every category. And last time Fern went to victory lane, it was with the trucks. It was at Iowa Speedway. That was his last MNR Pro Series win. So I think there's a lot riding high on the 86 meaning-wise when it comes down to getting himself back in the championship hunt and trying to lock himself into the next round. Just a handful of moments before we wave the green here from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. But before we do that, we'll send things trackside where we have our invocation and the performing of the national anthem, Lonnie Klaus on behalf of first responders first and John Carlos.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity that we have to participate in this event today. We thank you for the privilege to live in the United States of America, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. We commit this event to you, and may we please you. We'll give you the thanks. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land and of the free and the home of God?
10 drivers remain after testy 2 races in the round of 13. We're ready to get things set off for the first race of the round of 10 in the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries and the Tufco 110. Jacob, let's look into detail as to where we are in the virtual world. Las Vegas Motor Speedway. This track, a lot of grip and a lot of fun to drive on.
Middle of a desert. You don't often get a racetrack in the middle of a desert, but you get one here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, a mile and a half long. It opened back in 1996. You've got progressive banking through turns 1 and 2 and in 3 and 4. 12 degrees down at the bottom of the racetrack, 20 degrees up by the outside wall. It makes the racing very, very interesting here. Very dynamic. You can pretty much go anywhere and everywhere, from right down against the white line to up against the outside wall. And these guys are going to be using the entire racetrack tonight. We know how these trucks drive as it is, as somebody's not rolling from the grid black there. Now everybody's moving. But we know how these things drive. The trucks kind of act kind of plate racy-esque when they're on these mile and a halves. They get everybody bunched together, stuck in that draft, and we see a lot of big runs.
A perfect setting indeed for the beginning of the round of 10. Why don't we take things down to our BSD Shock starting grid and our Roasted Gems Coffee Pole Award. James Bickford on behalf of Charlotte Phoenix will look to get his second win on the year. After Watkins Glen, you'll have Justin Malillo to his outside, a solid qualifying effort for the number 53. Max Kennan in the 21 starts inside one number 2. He'll have the Cabot Esports driver of Bailey Turner to his outside into P4. It'll be Corey Heim looking to go 2 in a row here in MNR after winning last week. He rounds out your top 5. You'll have Garrett Smithley, who took an hour drive to get here into this session in his own rig. He is P6 tonight on qualifying. Adam Cabot, Season 4 champion. He rounds out your top 7. He'll have Presley Sora for Crypto Autosport to his outside in row number 4 before you find the 43 of Lane Sibile, a wheelman effort last week at Texas. Hopefully he keeps it more stable this time around with George Boutfans Jr. to his outside in the top 10. Jacob?
And Garrett Smithley is having some fun right now. They're saying he's got to go to the back because he didn't say he was showing up. He says he did as we go through the rest of the grid. Playoff driver Colin Fern, your pick, lining up in 11th. Got Nick Olson, David Shieldhouse back here with Will Rogers and Gary Sexton. Some more playoff guys rounding out the top 15 in row number 8. Dakota Curtis, Anthony Alfredo, and then Ryan Vargas and Matt Stalnick rounding out our top 20.
Got to give congratulations to Ryan Vargas, the new Experience Jackson sponsorship he announced with NASCAR Xfinity Series today. Joshua Slate is 21st, Gabe Wood 22nd. He'll have Ford Martin and Robbie Lyons behind them, 22nd and 23rd and 24th rather. Brett Baldeck got a Queen City News. He'll be rounding out your top 25. He'll have Steve Font to his outside, Mike Clay, Michael Massey, Seth Egger, Mark Rebillis, and the 84 of Case Kallenbach round out your 31 truck field here tonight from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So the first time we take a day trip here in Las Vegas, most of our MNR races here at this track have taken place in the sunset into the nightfall. We've got a hot track temperature in the 100-degree range. So these drivers are going to be wheeling these trucks all over the place. And before we go green, let's take a look at our Skybox NASCAR picks, all the bets here for the Monday Night Racing playoffs this year in 2022. And remember, if you want to show up on our screen on the bottom right, you can just use hashtag MNR Playoffs on Twitter and tag our very own Podium eSports Twitter page. Ready to get started as the field will head into the zone, and Barney the Flagman as James Bickford, Justin Malillo, the Toyota Tundra and Ford F-150 will hop on the gas pedal, and we're green flag racing in the Tufco 110.
Trouble, but Presley Sora gets turned around. He's around off turn number 2, right in front of the middle of the pack. Everybody slides to avoid, and they're going to avoid that 98 of Presley Sora. He got contact from behind by George Belfans Jr., and a big slide and save for the driver leading the points coming into this round of 10. A scary sight for Presley Sora, who started 8th. He's going to be at the back of the field on this next restart.
That is huge. Out of turn 2, there's your playoff point leader getting the tap from George Boutfans Jr. Some contact with Colin Fern on the bottom side of the racetrack and went around in the dead middle of the field. Everybody scrambling to get away. Saw one driver almost slam into the 98. Here's a look on board further back to the field. This is Anthony Alfredo in the 23. But you're right, Jacob, a huge shunt in the opening lap of the race for your playoff points leader already around lap 1.
Yeah, that's big, and he's going to have to drop all the way to the back since he was involved in the caution. A little bit of front end damage on the left front and on the left rear for Presley Sora. They do have a faster pair. I don't think he wants to use it this early. Aerodynamics could be a factor though if this thing stays as plate racy as we expect, so he may have no choice but to use that faster pair. Knowing him though, he's going to pit right now as well as Dakota Curtis and some others. I think he's going to uncheck that faster pair, fix the damage as much as he can, and see how much that affects him and try and hang on to later in the race.
Can also confirm that Dakota Curtis, the 45, the Sunoco Toyota Tundra TRD Pro, also got hit in that incident as Sora was chasing down the track just to save his Ford F-150. So a huge hit already for the 98 of Sora. And you make a good point as well, Jacob. If we're going to be like this for a couple laps, I know things are going to spread out once the tires start to wear, but it is going to be a tough challenge if you don't have your aerodynamics set up suitably for these type of conditions, especially now the grip is basically more needed than ever. Aerodynamics to follow as well. Erica, I know you've had the look at the first opening laps. Obviously not the caution that we wanted to start this race, but already a lot of drama early. I think this is a trend that we've seen in the playoffs. Playoff drivers somehow getting into trouble, somehow.
Yeah, and you know, we talked to Presley. He was one of the drivers we interviewed before we went green, and he highlighted this race. He circled this race. Just got to get a good finish, because next week at Daytona, that's the wild card race where things can happen outside your control. So for him to have damage on the front end of that truck on lap 1 here at Las Vegas, that absolutely was not according to plan and puts our points leader in a deep hole here early on.
So Sora going to be with his back against the wall, and to confirm he has used his faster pair, he is going to be starting deep in the field, almost dead last in front of Case Collenbach. He is 30th on the racetrack right now. So I talked about Garrett Smithley, Jacob, a little bit earlier on tonight. He had to make an hour drive from famed track North Wilkesboro in North Carolina to head over to his sim rig and race tonight here in the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. There he is currently in P6, starting pretty high up in the field despite not having a lot of practice, and I think it was awesome to see him go from such a famed historic racetrack and then go basically rushing back home just to race tonight. So cool.
He wasn't the only one. There was a good 4 or 5 guys that were out at North Wilkesboro earlier today that had to come racing home to make it on time. Guys like Brett Baldeck back there, he's in 23rd. Josh Slate as well, and a couple of others like Charlie Brown that said, yeah, I'm not making it back home in time. I'm not going to be able to run tonight. But it's so cool to see what's been going on down at North Wilkesboro, bringing that track back, and cool to see kind of the overlap between the guys that are here in Monday Night Racing and the racing going on in real world. By the way, George Belfans Jr. given the marking there, the penalty point for causing that crash on lap 1.
I love the fact that you use the racing to get home, and then they have to race all over again here in the sim. I love that. Love that. In traffic, and then in traffic with the competition here on iRacing. Pace car going to make its way down to pit road. You've completed 4 laps, ready to kick off lap number 5 in this Tufco 110 field. We'll head into the next move, Columbus restart zone, and it's all on your pole sitter, James Bickford, to lead us back to action. He does so swimmingly. Green flag back in the air.
Oh, no, Kennan!
It's Kennan around in the grass. Some contact with Leighton Sabile in the 43, but we will stay green. That crash happening under the racing line, so the 21 all by himself, basically away from the field. So more playoff troubles, Jacob, as of lap 5.
That's somebody that could not afford anything too big. Yeah, okay, he sits 4th in points, but he is 1 point above the cut line coming into tonight. So disaster for 2 playoff drivers early on in Presley Sora. You can add Colin Byrne to that list as well. Of course, he got damage in that opening lap crash, and now trouble for Max Kennan. So 3 playoff guys deep in the weeds, just 5 laps into this race.
And you can see just how much the damage is on behalf of the 21, 13 points down, dead last in that round of 10 standings. And I talked about it a little bit on that pre-race show. This field, this playoff field in specific, are as tight as you can ever be. Robbie Lyons In the back, though, gets turned by Justin Malillo. We will stay green on the front straightaway. A hard hit to the 2 in the Seminole, Florida native. But as I was going to say, going into tonight's race, there's only 8 points separating that first driver, Presley Sora, from the last driver. Going into tonight, the 86 of Colin Fern. We'll try to take a look back and see exactly how Lyons and Malillo got into a tussle. There were 3 wide in turns 3 and 4. Robbie Lyons tried to thread the middle. That's Lane Sabile, that yellow and black. Chevy Silverado on the bottom. And then up came Lyons. Contact was made with Malillo, and into the outside wall, Lyons went.
Yeah, Malillo apologized over the radio, did not want to make that contact. Such a shame for Robbie Lyons. He's had the speed, obviously a former Monday Night Racing champion. He's had his ups and downs this season, had a couple of great runs, but he has big damage to the front end of that number 2. And he has not come onto pit road yet, but he is way in the back, dead last right now on the racetrack.
So things only continue to get more insane for not only playoff drivers, but for basically everybody else in the field. You right on board with your pole sitter, one-time winner at Watkins Glen this season. James Bickford got the first win for Charlotte Phoenix in M&R competition officially. It's Adam Cabot, though, right on his rear side. And Adam Cabot, Jacob, your pick, already looking fairly strong. We saw him finish 3rd in one of our last Las Vegas races with the Cup car, where he was in a dead battle with Anthony Alfredo, had Garrett Smithley skimp by through the grass to win that race, but Cabot in position to win at the moment. P2, you're watching a side-by-side battle around the top 5. This is Nick Olson, Bailey Turner, DJ Cummings, this trio right in front of a battling Will Rogers and George Balfans Jr. into turn 1.
And there are some playoff implications in this battle. David Shieldhouse enters the picture, as well as Anthony Alfredo. So 3 out of the 4 guys right now currently in the playoffs. Belfans was in that first round before being cut after last week at Texas. There you see the points. Colin Fern, 5 out. Gary Sexton, 7 out. Max Kennan right now running in P28. He is 15 points outside the cut line. Ryan Vargas is the cut line, in by 5 points over that 86 of Colin Fern, and he almost makes contact, trying to go 3 wide with Leighton Sabile and George Belfans Jr. down in turn 1.
So some more contact almost there as Shieldhouse on the backside of all of this, just trying to make sure he can get out as smooth as possible. Of course, last time we were with the trucks, it was at Michigan International Speedway, and this driver, the Xyloware TobyChristie.com Chevy Silverado, was in the mix for the race win against Shane Van Gisbergen. Lost the battle to the 97, but there was a lot to look forward to if you were David Shieldhouse. And again, it touches back to my point about the preview that we might have. This track is a 1.5 mile configuration, has progressive banking. Homestead Miami Speedway, 1.5 mile oval, progressive banking. If you can perform well with these trucks, much like Shieldhouse is doing at the moment and is trying to master still, then you'll have a good shot into that championship 4 once you go to Homestead Miami Speedway. And in a way, Jacob, you'll be a little more comfortable. Obviously, there may be some outside factors that could affect you, but for the most part, if you've got things dialed in with this truck like Shieldhouse had talked about, and he likes this truck more often than not in the stock car service, it's going to help you a lot if you make that championship race.
And I think if Shieldhouse does make that championship race, he could be the guy to beat in that number 20, depending on who he's racing against. He is so fast in these trucks, so fast on the 1.5 miles. Trouble, Belfans Jr.'s around. He slaps Ryan Vargas in turn 3. He hangs onto the truck up against the outside wall. Now coming back down in front of traffic. Everybody's able to scatter and avoid that 94, but more trouble for George Belfans Jr. He caused the crash on lap 1, drives it a bit too hard into turn number 3, gets loose, and side slaps the right side of Ryan Vargas. Have to check the damage on the right side of that number 6. Certainly does not look good. He's had to give up a couple of spots, about 4 spots since that contact a lap ago.
That was a square hit to the right front of Ryan Vargas' truck. And again, Jacob, how many times are we going to see a playoff driver in trouble? Vargas came into tonight 2 points above that cut line in 7th. And then as Balfans was chasing down the track, Ford Martin almost slammed into his rear bumper. Fortunately, the 94 gets out of the way. It looks like he's going to be lapped by your leaders. He just merged back on the back straightaway. There he is in that black Ford F-150. And then there are your 2 leaders, James Bickford, Adam Cabot, 1st and 2nd as of lap 15, running away from the field by a good margin. And then here's the Hornet's Nest. Shieldhouse back on look. Here, this is 7th place right now, just behind the 55 of Will Rogers, the 5 of Bailey Turner. Nick Olson and Corey Himes seem to be going at it for 3rd place on the track. So there are two different sides of the story. You look at the top two that are just saying, all right, maybe there's some iffy cautions here and there, or almost cautions. We're clear of all the trouble. And then all these guys here are just worrying about whether somebody's going to make a mistake or not.
Well, and you saw it on the face of Shieldhouse, a little bit of a grin there. He knows the guys around him are having issues, and he trusts the guys he's racing with. Alfredo is a teammate. Will Rogers, obviously somebody that's in the playoffs. I don't think he's too worried about the driver of the 55. Neither Bailey Turner, neither the two of Robbie Lyons, the lap car that's going by the outside. That's Ford Martin almost making contact with Ryan Vargas. He is free-falling through the field. It's like he's got a parachute on the right side of his race car. He has dropped back to the 18th position, trying to hang on to that position from Ford Martin. That damage on the right side of Ryan Vargas's truck is absolutely killing him right now. He was up almost inside the top 10 after the contact with George Belfans Jr. He has fallen back to 19th, and at this point, he has fallen more than likely into the negative, into the red as far as the points are concerned for the cut line.
And that's going to help Max Kennan just a little bit. He's worked his way up slightly through the field after that small incident. You watch the points as it runs right now. Kennan now down only to 7 points. So I think the double-digit gap definitely non-existent now that Vargas and even then Gary Sexton has moved back through the field. So they're starting to even out just a little bit. We talk about how important aerodynamics are at this type of track with these trucks that definitely rely on it a lot. You're almost full throttle basically first handful of laps. Now is when the throttle will not be full throttle in the corners. The drivers will start to lift a little more, but still you need those aerodynamic features of the truck to help you get to the corners as fast as possible. And Vargas is on the cusp of falling out of the top 20 because here comes Josh Slate to the inside, the 01 making a move for 19th. And so Dakota Curtis now will be on the back foot of this. He'll be trying to fight for 20th right now on the racetrack, and he moves down and he'll turn Vargas sideways into 3 and 4. Vargas goes around auto in the wall into Brett Baldeck. That brings us our second caution of the night from Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and more trouble for the La Mirada, California native. Ryan Vargas had a hit with George Balfans Jr. in 3 and 4 and has a crash in the very same part of the track on lap number 20.
And he is furious over the radio. The replay tells the story right there. Dakota Curtis went in, didn't give Vargas enough room to make the corner, got into his left rear, turned that 6 around up and into the outside wall. Nowhere for Brett Baldeck to go. He kind of made his bed up on the outside, and when that 6 went around, you'll see it here on the replay, he just can't change lanes fast enough and has nowhere to go. Big damage for Vargas. He's going to have to use his fast repair, and that means he's going to be running about 90 or so laps without that fast repair as a safety net, and he is in major, major trouble going into Daytona next week.
This is a look from the 45, Dakota Curtis. I mentioned him looking underneath Vargas for 20th. And it just looks like they came together at the worst possible time. Both of them trying to arc into turn 3. We've seen a lot of drivers do that already. Kind of go up high, float it down low, and then reach that white line. Looks like Curtis a little bit too high up on the track and got to the bottom of that 6 truck. And Vargas now limps it to pit road. And you're right, Jacob, does use the fast repair. Definitely needs it. And now in the same boat as Presley Sora. 2 playoff drivers to kick off this race, both using that quick repair before we're even halfway through this race. Field on a pit road. James Bickford going to lead them down. There's Vargas avoiding a lap down here by the field. But Bickford, Cabot, Heim, Olsen, and Turner, your top 5 into pit road for the first time this evening.
And unlimited tire sets for these guys, so they're going to pit at any chance and every chance they can here. And I think the same, it's going to be the same across the board. 4 tires, a little bit of fuel in it. They can't adjust much of anything on these race cars, so the only thing you can really adjust is the fuel you put in it and the tires that you put on it. Race off pit road. Bickford was a little sideways in his box. Give Adam Cabot the lead, powering around the outside. First spot for Bickford does not pay off. I don't know if you saw it there. Bickford was angled toward the inside wall when he made his stop. He had to turn the wheel back to the right when he got on the gas, spun the tires a little bit more. Cabot, easy in, easy out, wins the race up pit road and takes the lead.
by 0.6 of a second. 14.6 on that box, 15.2 for the 29 of James Bickford, who falls back to second. It's your season 4 champion. Adam Cabot now moves to the front of the field after our second caution of the night. You're watching coverage of the Tufco 110 live from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway as we continue our route to a championship in the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. Don't go anywhere. We've got more for you on Podium eSports next.
Visit our website at tufcoflooring.com.
This is an Interstate battery. More pros trust this than any other out there. Yeah, more pros. More. Even more pros. Keep going. Moss. Look, we're going to run out of time before we run out of pros who like Interstate. I mean, we'll run out of time before we even run out of left-handed pros who knit. These pros are everywhere, which means so is this battery. Right around the corner, up the street. Everywhere. Interstate Batteries. Outrageously dependable.
Welcome back to coverage of the first race in the round of 10 for the Monday Night Racing Pro Series playoffs presented by Interstate Batteries. Just a quick reminder that our coverage of the Tufco 110 is brought to you by none other than Tufco Flooring. Tufco Flooring is an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. Tufco doesn't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach, and neither should you. Tufco listens to your needs and requirements and develops custom solutions for every single client. For more information and to learn more, visit their website today at tufcoflooring.com. Well, Eric, this was a run out of nowhere. 23 laps, 2 playoff drivers already in trouble, some multiple almost cautions on the racetrack. What are your main takeaways from not only you, but for everybody watching in YouTube chat tonight?
Yeah, well, I've been answering a lot of questions, a lot of people questioning how the fast repair works. And yes, every driver in the field gets one basically mulligan, full reset this race. And we've already seen, like you mentioned, 2 playoff drivers, Presley Sora and Ryan Vargas, forced to burn theirs early. Now, there's a ton of playoff drivers who've lost their track position in this race. Max Kennan, who was starting to rebound early on there. We've had drivers like Colin Fern get damaged in that Sora wreck earlier as well. So just like last week, and really the week before, somehow it's the playoff drivers, maybe a little extra pressure, maybe that's all it takes. They're the ones in trouble early on. But great racing. We've seen that mix of pack racing, but it seems like you want to stay in line until it's ready to you're ready to make a move. That's how you move forward slowly but surely. But it was a great pit road battle at the end there too. Adam Cabot getting the control position on this restart.
A pivotal pass for the race lead, Adam Cabot to P1. He'll have James Bickford for his outside on the restart, lap 25 of 110, almost at the quarterway of tonight's Tufco 110 as well from Las Vegas. And that's a good point, Eric. I mean, ever since the start of the playoffs, it feels like we've had this trend, this story of the drivers highlighted in green, getting in trouble in some way or another. We had it happen at Daytona. We've had it happen across the playoffs so far. Hopefully we don't see any more troubles arise out of the playoff field. We'll just see what happens as we will get our green flag restart here, lap number 25. Again, Adam Cabot, James Bickford, your front row, Corey Heim, Bailey Turner to enter the next move, Columbus restart zone, and will bring us back to the green flag in the Tufco 110. Adam Cabot with a solid start, Corey Heim facing to the inside of James Bickford in turn 1.
This top 4 able to break away. Will Rogers and Anthony Alfredo behind him, kind of clogging up the rest of the pack. Bailey Turner on forward, able to just get away from anybody and everybody else as they fan out down the back straightaway. Here comes Corey Heim. A big push from the 5 of Bailey Turner. Can't get to the rear bumper of Alfredo, and now Turner catches the apron. The inside line stacks up. Matt Stallneck is sideways. He's on the apron, able to hang on to the truck as everybody fans out 4 wide down the front straightaway.
A huge hiccup out of the 5 of Turner, caught the apron, and all of a sudden they're all over the place for the top 5. Bring in Will Rogers, bring in David Shieldhouse, Anthony Alfredo trying to cut through the middle out of turn 2. Leighton Sabile in this group as well. You can add way more drivers all the way back to the top 15. You're right on board with the Hawaiian native. Rogers going into turn 3. They managed to single file themselves out into that 3rd corner, but they are still all over the place. And mind you, Presley Sora, remember that sideways incident on lap 1? He's up to P9 on the racetrack as you watch them almost go 3 wide back to turn 1.
Sora, remember, used that faster pair under the first caution flag, got himself back in position, flew through the field, and now, after pitting under this last caution flag, no strategy involved, took 4 tires and fuel like everybody else. He was able to get himself back inside the top 10 as he tries to work on Leighton Sabile for that 8th spot. Seen a lot of guys this last time by coming through turns 3 and 4, get super loose on exit. Not sure if they hit the apron or if it's just the setup is that loose on them, but turn 4 may just be the trouble spot for these guys tonight.
It's also cold tires as well, Jacob. I recall immediately, Season 3 Homestead of Miami Speedway finale, Raja Karuth, who was in contention for the championship, came out of his pit stall on green flag pit stops and got sideways at the top end of 3 and 4, running that very outside line up against that safer barrier. Cold tires are definitely an issue here with these trucks. And it looks like Leighton Sabile already suffering the brunt of it as he gets loose out of turn 4, and he will invite Presley Sora back to the inside. DJ Cummings might be the next one as well to enter. He's going to try to lodge himself deep within this top 10 to 10 truck sponsored by eNASCAR. So Cummings looking to the inside now on that black and yellow number 43. And Leighton Sabile had a very interesting time at Texas. I know, Jacob, you and Blake were on the call for that. You guys saw the full effects of Leighton Sabile on old tires at a track as rough as Legacy, Texas, with a low downforce setup and the Xfinity Series cars. Sabile has been a wheelman the past couple of weeks, no doubt about it. But good to see him in the top 10 tonight in that champion number 43.
It reminded me of Raja Karuth in that ARCA race at Charlotte back in May.
Oh, yeah.
Every corner, 3 and 4, drifting. He's got the right rear hanging out. He's turning right to go left. And Max Kennan about had the same story coming off turn 4. He got the apron, got extremely loose, cost him a couple of spots. He's now back in the 16th position, fighting alongside Ryan Vargas. Meanwhile, for the lead, here comes Beckford on the bottom, trying to get the lead from Cabot.
Took him a couple laps, but he finally found the inside. May bring in the fellow Toyota Tundra behind him, the 51 of Corey Haim, looking to the inside, and for now still deadlocked for P1. Bickford will have the run into the first 2 corners. Will he be able to clear? The answer is yes. For a moment out of turn 2, your pole sitter back up front, but a huge block sent to the 17, and guess who's back in it? Bailey Turner, the Cabot eSports teammate, down low underneath Corey Haim.
Whoa, and where is Will Rogers going? Up, bounces it off almost the outside wall. He's going to lose half a dozen spots, maybe more. He hangs on to the truck. The racing up at the front, still very aggressive. It's lap 31, and we're racing like there's 3 to go.
And that 55 just got loose and sent it all the way up the racetrack. Still another change for the lead. Bickford losing the fight against Adam Cabot out of turn 2. Now here comes Corey Haim to fill the space up top. Haim, of course, remember, did make a start with the trucks at Michigan. Did not have the best time, did not have the best finish to reflect his performance. But Haim has been on fire, and grabbing that win last week at the Legacy Texas Motor Speedway only affirms just how good Corey Haim is, and also fresh off of some good finishes in the truck race, the IRP race with the ARCA cars. It was a lot of fun watching Corey Haim take IRP that certain weekend with NASCAR taking the doubleheader at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He settles into 3rd. You're right on board with Alfredo, who's made a solid charge up to the field after starting in P18 tonight. So that 23 already on some good momentum. We've seen him, Jacob, very fast and contentious at many of the tracks, specifically those super speedways where he has his wins in Season 5. And now Alfredo looks to the inside of Corey Haim. This is an attempted pass for 3rd.
Alfredo has the 4th highest average finish out of all the guys in the playoffs. He was 2nd when we came here in the trucks back in Season 2. He finished 3rd last week when we were at Texas. He was not here, though, when we took the Cup cars here in Season 4. So no stat line for him there, but some very good runs as of late for that 23 after missing a couple of races right before the playoffs. Just building momentum, trying to carry himself to his first MNR title. He is 2nd in all-time wins with 6, trying to climb his way closer to Nick DeGroot, who's the all-time wins leader at 9. He's trying to get himself not only a championship, but a shot at taking over the all-time wins list.
And what a huge championship it would be for Anthony Alfredo if he could get to that point. And he is a winner, formerly at the Homestead of Miami Speedway, not just once, but twice, both in the Cup cars. He's had a lot of success in South Florida, so if he can punch his way into the championship four sooner than later, we may see a strong fight out of that 23 once we get down to Homestead of Miami in just a couple of weeks' time. But for right now, he's got to play some defense. You're riding on board with second-place driver James Bickford, but behind him, they are tussling for the top 5. David David Shieldhouse looking underneath that 23. There's a look behind the Charlotte Phoenix eSports Toyota Tundra TRD Pro. It's Shieldhouse underneath Sabile. And I think Jacob just tailing off that Michigan race. Shieldhouse is a slight move up through the field. This will send him into 5th if he can make the pass complete on that 43. And Alfredo, Shieldhouse, both of them know each other very well. Both of them work with each other very well, picking their way through the field. We may see them catch up to first in a matter of moments if they can.
And Shieldhouse, in 4 of the last 5 races, he has finished on the podium. Third, second, first. He finished 8th when we were at Texas last week. His worst finish since race number 5 this season. He started out the season 21st at Daytona, 2 6th-place finishes, a 27th and a 22nd. Since then, he's been in the top 10 every single week. 4 of the last 5 on the podium. That 20 has been fast everywhere we go. No different here tonight, and he has just been building that run for a title over these last 6 races or so, consistently up at the front, consistently with a very fast car or truck.
And it's felt like as well that run for the title for Monday Night Racing started back at the first race, season 4. He picked up that win, the Xfinity cars at Daytona International Speedway, and immediately you could tell just how confident he was in his ability to rummage through the field, get these finishes, be as consistent as possible, get wins along the way, and run for that championship for at the very end of the season. Did not get it last time around earlier in February, but I mean, still, I think the redemption arc is definitely still in play for that number 20 of Shieldhouse, and those good finishes along with the win earlier this season with the MX-5s at the Daytona Road Course. Shieldhouse only looking to mount the pressure on the rest of the field and continue that quote, keep it alive, where he said, the championship runs through me. 40 laps in here from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We'll toss it down to Eric Estep. Eric, what you got is...
Whoa, Sabile!
It's at a turn 2.
Oh, what a save.
Just like last week, never break the action as long as the 43's on track. No, hanging out here in the control center in the garage area. A lot of new viewers tonight. A lot of people in the chat tuning in, saying this is the first Monday Night Racing event they've watched. Racing Guy 2448 says this is the first iRacing thing he's watched since the Pro Invitational was on FS1 a couple years ago. So welcome to all the new viewers. Hope you're enjoying the show thus far. I want to tell you guys, I'm watching the guys who've used their fast repairs. Ryan Vargas and Presley Sora both had to burn their fast repairs early, but Sora's up to 6th place, quietly and consistently moving his way forward. He's got to step gingerly compared to some of the other front runners, but Vargas is still back in 13th place, not having quite as easy of a time moving forward. It pains me to say that because he was my pick, but facts are facts, Kenneth.
And you know what? I feel the same. If it goes down to my pick, Colin Fern, he has yet to move. He is 15th. Right now on the racetrack. He hasn't used his fast repair, of course, but he has just been hanging around through the midfield. Hopefully we see some good progress out of both of them, and good also to see a lot of new viewers watching our Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries coverage. Great to have you all watching on Podium eSports or wherever you're watching across the sim racing world. We had just an attempted pass there for P2, Corey Heim underneath James Bickford, but before we get back to that battle, we will remind you that our coverage tonight of the Tufco 110 is brought to you by Interstate Batteries. Built to top industry standards, Interstate Batteries has been the technician's choice for 9 years and counting. Powered by a distributor network of 300 wholesale warehouses and backed up by more than...
Man, I'm sorry, Sabile about did it again in turn 2.
Yeah, we're gonna caught up a lot by that 43. Many of the drivers getting loose, but with more than 150 dealers around the world, as well as 200 all Battery Center franchise stores, Interstate seeks to deliver the most trustworthy source of power to the world every single day. Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable. Well, if there's one thing, Jacob, that's outrageously dependable, it's that 43 bringing us some star moments on the racetrack, because he is whipping this thing sideways all over the place as he's in a battle with the one of Gary Sexton. This is just inside the top 15.
I saw him start to slide up through 1 and 2. He had Gabe Wood on the outside, and I was thinking, oh, please don't do it. Please don't do it. Started to walk up the racetrack. That's when I thought everything was going to go off the rails there when he started going up the hill. But he was able to hang on, didn't take anybody out. And he slid through the field now a little bit, back to the 15th position. He started in 9th, but he is hanging on for dear life and trying not to be the caution, but I think he might be looking for a caution so he can get some tires out of this.
Yeah, caution certainly would help, and obviously that would help the likes of Ryan Vargas, Colin Fern, Gary Sexton, those highlighted green playoff drivers that want to get back in this mix. We had that first caution or rather since that first one with Presley Sora, that second caution with Ryan Vargas was a break for a majority of the field because everybody could just get crunched in back together, specifically Max Kennan, as you take a look at our playoff standings as they run, and they have shifted quite a bit. It's now Colin Fern dead last, 4 points out of it, a 3-point gap between Max Kennan, who you're riding on board with right now, versus the La Mirada, California native, Ryan Vargas, who's holding pretty much the last spot into the top 7 once we crunch things down at the Daytona International Speedway with the ARCA cars, the bumpy version of Daytona. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I mean, again, Jacob, we'll talk about that point of just trying to keep your best foot forward at a track like this, especially with the combo we have next week. Because again, we talk about the tale of two cities. In every single playoff round, there's always one that maybe is the more calm one out of the two, where you have to drive the car a little bit more. But then comes that second, or depending on the first race of the round, where it's a super speedway and literally anyone can have a chance at winning the race when it comes down to it. That's what we're seeing right now. A lot of the guys in trouble. They're starting to panic just a little bit as we're approaching halfway, because they know they need to perform. They need to outlast everybody else and keep a points cap if they want to have a chance of remotely surviving and being a little more comfortable and more at ease once we get to Daytona.
Not only is it a plate track, it is at bumpy Daytona, so you are bumping and bobbing the cars loose. You're running the ARCA cars, which are out of shape there to begin with. Plus, you can't push in those cars, because you go to push and you pick the rear tires up off the guy in front of you and spin them out. So there's no shot at bump drafting really in those cars. The margin of error is huge. You're out of control over the bumps, and you're all compressed together like you're in a can of sardines going 185 mile an hour around the racetrack. It's chaotic for these guys. And it's going to be so much fun next week watching how everything plays out. Maybe not for the guys that are in the playoffs, though. For them, it's going to be agony for 80 laps.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be tough, and for sure. I mean, when I look at the combo, not even driving it myself, I get nervous. So if I get nervous watching it, I can imagine just how nervous the drivers get as they're running laps around the Daytona International Speedway. Of course, that coverage next week here on Podium eSports. But for now, watching the battle potentially for the race lead. Just looked on board with the battery man, as we'll call him this season, Justin Malillo. Wave over to the camera. He's in a fight for 16th right now against the 15 machine of Garrett Smithley. But one thing we are seeing right now, Jacob, is a change in lines, and I saw it with James Bickford a couple laps ago. That high side is starting to kick in just a little bit. Corey Heim, one of the newest entrants to go all the way up there.
Trouble, DJ Cummings. No trouble. He's pitting. I can't read. He's making the call to come on to pit road, which is interesting. It's been about 30 laps, a little less than 30 laps, since these guys have been on pit road. Sounds like James Bickford might be the next guy to come onto pit road as the field coming through 3 and 4, and he's going to the bottom side. Yeah, so Bickford going to come onto pit road. We are in the window now to pit. We're just shy of halfway by about 4 laps. Remember, 70% fuel capacity in these trucks. So these guys can't run a full load of fuel. It's going to open the door for some strategy here to try and make it later on in this race and make it to the end.
And it makes me wonder whether those highline choices were just experimentation, whether they're just trying to see if there's something up there before they ended up coming down pit road. Top 2 leaders going to the bottom of the racetrack, but so far, no decision to come down for the pit lane. Only 2 drivers in. Looks like, I believe, Dakota Curtis has chimed in over the radio, so we may see that 45 machine, who was caught up in the incident earlier on this evening with Presley Sora on lap number 1, come down pit road. I believe the answer will be yes, so hopping on the brakes goes to 45. He will head in for pit road. Same deal for Matt Stallneck, Ford Martin, the Crypto Autosport teammates. Ryan Vargas, playoff driver, he's in his stall as well. So you're right, Jacob, the entire field heading down pit road. This is strategy time. If you hadn't had your strategy books open, you got to have them on right now. There's a look at Vargas in pit road.
Yeah, if you weren't ready for green flag pit stops, you're going to be ready now. And since we have unlimited tire sets for this race, tire strategy for the most part going to go out the window unless we get a late race yellow. Leighton Sabile busted for speeding, trying to get onto pit road. He has a black flag. He's going to sit in the box for about 40 seconds extra. So trouble for that 43, not in the playoffs. Has a lot of speed, though. Can't quite get it onto pit road in time. Pit speed here at Las Vegas, it's 50 miles an hour. You got to hit 50 by the time you get to pit road. Otherwise, you're in trouble. Our race leaders on pit road.
Indeed so. It looks like Corey Heim will stay out, but it'll be Adam Cabot, the first playoff driver, at least in the top 3, in. Nick Olson in as well. George Balfans Jr. in on pit road. Looks like Gabe Wood is also soon to follow. So a majority of the field now taking their first round of green flag pit stops here from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Still eyeing that 51 on whether he's coming down. Now the answer will be yes. And who will follow him? Anthony Alfredo. Looks like David Shieldhouse. Alfredo gets a little bit loose. Presley Sora. They both get loose. Lock up the brakes. Hopefully no speeding penalties. Rogers in as well on the backside of this conversation. So they will go into pit road next. Looks like, I believe, Josh Slayton, the 01. Next one to follow. Answer is right there. So the white Chevy Silverado will be down on pit road at the tail end. You see him far back in the screen on pit road. Bailey Turner, Garrett Smithley, Justin Malillo, Seth Eggert, Steve Alfont among those guys in the top 5 that are staying out on track still yet to pit. This should give the proverbial lead right now to Corey Heim as Turner comes in at pit road. But I think the times are just so close right now that things may be up in the air as Heim comes out first. Shieldhouse, Alfredo, and Sora out next.
Yeah, so now we've got everybody but Malillo coming to pit road, it looks like. So Malillo going to be the lone guy staying out, trying maybe to play the caution game, maybe just trying to lead some laps, get some experience out at the front of the field. He's going to pit this time by Case Kallenbach just made his way onto pit road. So James Bickford is going to be your race leader. He has about a second lead over Adam Cabot. So that 29, remember, he pitted sooner than Cabot by a couple laps, and that's going to be the difference. Move that 29 eventually to P1. He's got to go another full lap. He just unlapped himself to Malillo, and here he comes now battling George Belfans Jr. Belfans Jr. a lap down, back in the 27th position. So right now, Bickford out in front, but that Cabot truck, that black, it's coming.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a 3-lap difference to the good for the 17 of Adam Cabot. And while, yes, the 94 of George Balfans Jr. is going to act like a pick a little bit, going to add some more dirty air to that 17, I don't think Cabot really cares all too much about having that driver there because he feels he's probably going to be able to do quick work just based on the tires alone. And this is really the first time in MNR history that we race Las Vegas Motor Speedway in daytime conditions. Here's a nice look out of the grill of the 17 of Adam Cabot. Not often do you get a camera shot like this, courtesy of Gary Sexton, Ryan Bauer, our producer here tonight, and Sexton providing all of the cameras for our coverage here on Podium eSports. But Cabot just insanely fast here, already catching up to this duo at the moment. Into turn 1, looks like the 94 will clear headway, so it'll be the 17's move, his choice out of turn 2 to go inside for the race lead. Back straightaway momentum will go to the 17, and here comes Cabot inside for P1.
And remember, Cabot is on the fresher tires. He pitted 3 laps later than Bickford. Bickford came out in front initially, but Adam Cabot just, see you later, just gone right away, and he will retake the lead and as of now provisionally lock himself in to the next round. They've got to look 3 seconds back though until you get to Corey Heim, who's in third. He lost a lot of time from pit entry to pit exit. 39 sixes from pit cone to pit cone for Cabot and Bickford, a 40 flat for Corey Heim. Faster times, though, from David Shieldhouse, DJ Cummings. They could not quite, though, close that gap in. There's good battle forming, though, from Corey Heim on back, specifically Alfredo on back. Got a nice clump there. 3 out of the 4 in playoff contention. The exception, the 10 of DJ Cummings.
You know, the positive thing looking at this battle here, you're right on board with Presley Sora. Him and Vargas both in trouble to start this race. And look at them right now in the top 10, getting the faster pair. They've treated their trucks as carefully as they can, and they've executed well on this pit stop. Obviously for Vargas, that pass by the 98 isn't certainly going to help when it comes to the point standings, as Sora is just trying to pick things back up, being the points leader out of the round of 13. But it's nice to see both of them recover after the problems that they suffered earlier on tonight. You take a glance at this, and it looks like they haven't been in trouble at all. And the greatest thing now, they are both above that cut line as it stands. Colin Fern, Max Kennan, and the one of Gary Sexton still down below that round of 10 cut line. into the round of 7 in just a couple of weeks' time, and it's Adam Cabot leading this race coming into 48 laps to go. Eric, I'll bring it back to you. I know that the chat had a lot of favorites, including Anthony Alfredo when it came down to the race win, but did anyone have Glen Gardner, New Jersey's Adam Cabot up at the front right now? He's dominating after taking that pass around James Bickford.
You know, there are a few Cabot fans in the chat, but right now people are just raving about that grill cam. That's something you don't see every day, so you never know what you're going to expect. What you can expect when watching Monday Night Racing. Yeah, I'm trying to analyze this pitch strategy, but I'm putting my Larry McReynolds headset on for a moment. We expect everyone to make another pit stop maybe in the next 20 or so laps, seeing exactly what a fuel run is. But James Bickford running second pit at least one lap before everybody else, and we saw how it in the short term gave him that track position, gave him that lead, but he really had nothing for Adam Cabot, who was only on 3 lap fresher tires. So as we get down to this final cycle of pit stops, it'll be interesting to see whether drivers sacrifice long run speed over initial track position.
You know what, Eric? I am very glad that we have someone like you who can kind of dive into the numbers a little bit. I know Jacob is way better at math than I am, because I am just absolutely horrendous. You look at my math performances, and it's unbearable. Trust me. I'm not a good strategist whatsoever. You're watching a battle here around the top 3. This is Shieldhouse underneath Corey Heim in the 051. So a solid pit stop here by both Shieldhouse and Alfredo. They've done a solid job of, again, like I said earlier on, picking their way through the field. But just shortly before we get back to this battle, Jacob, I want to touch again on Adam Cabot. And last week specifically, you and Blake had the opportunity to watch him in the Xfinity car, a car that he's done fairly well at in his history in M&R in previous times, and just the performance he put up to be behind your race winner, Corey Heim, at the time. Your main takeaways, what were they from that race at Legacy, Texas that seem to be flourishing right now here at Las Vegas?
Well, I've been thinking this all year. Cabot, hot and cold. He started the year 32nd at Daytona, then he went back and finished second when we went to Martinsville. Then a 7th place at Watkins Glen, okay. 37th at Texas in the Radicals. Just really hot and cold, either a really good finish or a really bad finish. No real in between. It's now that the playoffs have started that Colin Fern is ripping off good finish after good finish. 4th at the Daytona Road Course. 2nd last week at Texas. He's dominating so far here tonight. Adam Cabot back in championship-like form right now with a 1.6 second lead and growing over James Bickford. He may be the new favorite to win the title coming out of this race tonight if he can seal the deal and win this race.
You know, there's nothing better than going back to the championship 4 as a defending champion, basically still putting your foot on the rest of the field's throat and saying, hey, I am still here. I am the captain still. You have not dethroned me, and I'm going to look to keep myself on the throne for as long as I can. You're still watching this trio between Alfredo, Shieldhouse, and Corey Heim catching up on some lap traffic. That looks to be Mike Clay in the 88 machine. He's running 25th right now. 2nd truck, 1 lap down behind the 94 of George Balfans Jr., who, if we get a caution, should have that lucky dog spot. We'll just see if anything changes. But for right now, as of 42 laps to go, it is all Adam Cabot. 2 seconds flat ahead of the 29 of James Bickford. Well, if you like what you're watching right now here on Monday Night Racing, presented by Interstate Batteries on Podium eSports, you can follow at Monday Night Racing on TikTok for a more candid and fun way to experience MNR. You can catch race highlights, interactive clips, and maybe occasionally some drivers dancing, maybe Ford Martin in specific. But nonetheless, you can follow at Monday Night Racing on TikTok. So it's Cabot, Bickford, Heim, Shieldhouse, and Alfredo, your top 5. Presley Sora, Ryan Vargas rounding out your top 7. It's Bailey Turner, who is 7th right now. Actually is in a tussle with 7th with Ryan Vargas. The 86 of Colin Fern, my pick tonight. He is in P9. He'll have Nick Olson behind him for your current top 10. And I'm liking this call right now, Jacob. If I am the driver of the 20 and the 23, Shieldhouse and Alfredo, 2 heavy tines in our playoff battle, alike with that number 17 of Adam Cabot. They have done a solid job of putting themselves in this conversation, because earlier on tonight, just kind of hanging around top 5, top 10, making their way through the field, trying to avoid some trouble. Now that they've got some clear track, and now that they've got the strategy in their bag, it's certainly helping them in the last end of the race.
This may be the strongest championship 4 we ever have, depending on who comes out of this round and the next round, because the talent is so much deeper this year, it seems like. Presley Sora, you've got Shieldhouse and Alfredo. Bickford has been strong almost all season long. Colin Fern is fast everywhere we go. Will Rogers is fast everywhere we go. Max Kennan started the season really strong. He's kind of fallen off a little bit as of late, but I think that's more just things not going his way, not necessarily him not having the speed. Right now he sits in the 16th position, still really recovering after that spin through the grass. Yeah, he did have a caution since then, but he hasn't used his fast repair. Maybe still a little bit of damage to that NOS 21 machine as the truck in front of him gets really sideways and gets out of town. But I think the way things look now, it's going to be really, really tough not only to send 3 guys home in this round, but when the next round comes around, when we go to Auto Club and we go to Old Atlanta, it's going to be so tough as, look out, speaking of tough, James Bickford dirt tracking that thing off turn 2. He's going to lose a spot to Heim and to Shieldhouse.
That's going to be tough there for the 29, who was formerly in your race lead and up until this point was in P2 behind Adam Cabot. Falls short with Corey Heim, Shieldhouse, and we saw Heim picking up a lot of pace on that 29 as of the last couple laps. Heim setting laps in the 32.3s, and basically the only other driver in that 32.3 bracket in the top 5, apart from your race leader Adam Cabot. Shieldhouse is the fastest one, remarkably at a 32.1. So things are getting hectic as Bickford now will be under fire from another driver, Anthony Alfredo, who moves to the inside, riding on board with that infamous grill cam that a lot of people on Eric Estep's stream liked a lot off of the front end of the 17 this time with the 20. And I think what makes matters worse here, Jacob, here comes Presley Sora. I think if you're James Bickford, you started on pole, you saw the 98 go spinning out of turn 2, and now you're getting passed by him into 1 and 2 this time. Sora makes the move for 5th.
A huge rebound for Presley Sora to get himself into the top 5. This is the kind of statement that he needs, that, hey, you can throw anything you want at me. I'm going to come back stronger. I'm going to come back with vengeance, and I'm going to come back and ruin your shots at the championship by just outrunning you if we get green flag racing. A great run from Presley Sora. He thought his race may have been over on lap 1. Instead, here he is back inside the top 5 with a pretty nice point cushion as of now. If this race were to end right now, going into the cutoff race next week at Daytona.
And it just turns back to the point that you made, Jacob, about the strength of the field in the playoffs. Not only just running for the championship, but across the entire series of Monday Night Racing. You have so many great drivers, and it's so sad to cut them off when you end up at these elimination races just because of how good they are. And you've got drivers like a Presley Sora, a rookie, basically coming out of the gate immediately with pace, getting a win in the 2nd race of the season, and then backing it up 2 races later at Texas. Alfredo, who's been strong all time in M&R history. Cabot, who's a recent entrant to Season 4 champion. Shieldhouse, who is now starting to really gain some traction as he's in the middle of a huge traffic battle with Corey Heim. This is for 2nd. That's around the 45 of Dakota Curtis, and the truck right in front of them appears to be the number 11 of Steve Alfont. They're going to have to break by, but just so many talented drivers through the field, and we keep tabs here on this number 20, Shieldhouse, as he continues to eye in. This will be the highest he's run all race long. If he can get by that 051, it'll be P2 on the racetrack, closing in on the final 32 laps of this Tufco 110. Next Level Racing is proud to partner with Monday Night Racing. We had a great partnership with them announced a couple of weeks back. Founded in 2009, Next Level Racing is the world's leading simulation brand, revolutionizing simulation racing with its industry-leading product range. To learn more and to find out all about Next Level Racing, you can visit their website at nextlevelracing.com. Our main man, Eric Estep, what you got? I know the chat is probably going insane with strategy and all the things that are going on right now in this playoff fight, with Adam Cabot leading the field by 2.9 seconds and counting. What do you got?
Yeah, so I asked the chat, we're expecting the leaders to make likely their final pit stop here in the next handful of laps. I asked the chat, would you short pit or long pit if you were one of the leaders in this race? And I noticed early on we had 60-70% saying they'd pit early. And then once James Bickford got kind of freight trained there on the outside, I noticed it came back a little. But still, we have over 60 votes in our live chat right now, and nearly 60% say they would pit early here on this final cycle. Try to take advantage of that track position and maybe try to hold off the leaders on slightly worse tires. But we'll see what works out for these leaders up front.
That's a good question there, Eric, as well. We saw the overcut work for Adam Cabot, not necessarily the undercut work for the 29 of James Bickford, but I think, Jacob, you saw exactly what I did. Coming out of turn 4, or rather turn 2, the 20, or the 43 rather, of Leighton Sabile had a huge loose moment, overcorrected the truck, slammed into the outside wall, somehow kept it straight, and we're still green with 30 laps left.
I didn't quite see that. I was busy watching the 99 and the 2 almost take out the 51 and the 20. But let's take a look here with the 43. Oh, man, that's game one that almost wound up wrecked. Good job by Sabile by at least keeping it up and out of the way and not collecting anybody involved in that. And it looks like we're going to have our first round, or last round of pit stops opening. DJ Cummings makes the call. He's coming to pit road from inside the top 10, and he's not the only one this time by. James Bickford is going to make the call to come onto pit road, and this is the money stop for these guys. The question is Bickford making the call too early? Is he going to have a lot of friends that pit with him at the same time? Sounds like Ryan Vargas will pit with him. He's a little bit further back. But right now, it looks like, yes, most of them will. Alfredo, Shieldhouse, Corey Heim, and Adam Cabot all come on to pit road for the money stop.
I was about to say it was going to look like a mirror image of that first round of green flag stops where Cummings and Bickford had gone in first, but now it's almost everybody coming in on behalf of your front leaders. There's the 51 going into his stall. There's Bickford now heading into his stall. 50 of Gabe Wood out and about. There is the 07 of Ford Martin, the 17 of Cabot, getting the jacks up, getting the fuel in the truck. He's out and away. Presley Sora has reverted to the race lead, but now he hits pit road, so it'll turn things over to the Cabot eSports machine of Bailey Turner in the 5. There's Cabot coming out of pit road. Now Sora heading in for his stall. Smithley staying out. Same deal for playoff driver Gary Sexton and a fellow playoff runner Max Kennan. Justin Malillo out as well. So a couple laps before we see those guys head into pit road for their chance of service for the final time tonight with 27 laps to go in the Tufco 110. But Adam Cabot having to swerve through traffic to get away as he currently holds on as your proverbial race leader.
Bailey Turner makes the call to go to pit road. Nick Olson stays out. Remember, he got eliminated last week at Texas. Did not make the trip to Texas. Couldn't show up for the race. Out on vacation for him. Colin Fern, Garrett Smithley, Garrett Sexton, Max Kennan all staying out. I like the call by those guys, hoping perhaps a caution were to come out so these guys could save the track position, because if a yellow comes, I think everybody's going to come back to pit road to get tires, just because tires have been so crucial for these guys. The question is, will we see Barney the Flagman throw the yellow handkerchief, or will we stay green for these remaining 25 laps? Only time will tell, but here comes David Shieldhouse. He is flying, trying to get by guys like Dakota Curtis and the 27 of Michael Massey. Corey Heim right in his tire tracks.
He jumped Corey Heim there on that last stop, but now Corey Heim fends to the bottom, so he's going to try and take the spot back. A pick here, Mike Clay in the 88 in the middle of all of it. There goes the 051 flying by, and Corey Heim will look to take over second right now, as it looks like George Balfans Jr. has almost got away from that yellow pit cone, and some trouble almost. Mark Rabillis way sideways going into the stall. But Colin Fern, the biggest note there, he's in a pit road. Same deal for the 45 of Dakota Curtis. And I was about to like that call there out of the 86 of Fern. Remember his last win in M&R. Came back at Iowa in the playoffs with these trucks. He stayed out for as long as possible. A yellow came out. The race went haywire. And Fern was able to stay out front to win that race and lock himself into the championship 4. For now, it's going to have to wait on that yellow flag. Nick Olson is coming in. Same deal for, actually not the same deal for Garrett Smith-Lee. He's going to stay out, lead some laps. So we anticipate that Justin Malillo, Seth Egger will do the same. But as soon as they all pit, it will be Adam Cabot out first. And it looks like he's going to try and command this one to the very end. 14.1 seconds, or 14.3 rather, on Colin Fern's stop. He will try to exit around the top 15, top 20. But frankly, Jacob, if this stays green, this is looking like Cabot's race to lose with 22 to go.
How about this battle for second? Great battling, or eventual second, between David Shieldhouse and Corey Heim. Shieldhouse crossed Heim over, coming through 3 and 4, got the power down on the front straightaway, moved that number 20 back into position number 2. Corey Heim gets a little bit loose, still has a big run, pushing that 20 down the back straightaway. Lap traffic ahead. It's Steve Affont. He goes to the high side. 2 and 3 position on the racetrack. They go to the bottom. Shieldhouse will hold on to the what will be second place here on Smithley, and Malillo make the call. Smithley on pit road now. Malillo should be making the call, I think, in the next lap. Still bump drafting these two, perhaps trying to work together and get to Adam Cabot. Cabot is 3 seconds up the road from Shieldhouse and Corey Heim.
Justin Melillo in his Traction.GG Ford F-150 staying out. So good to see Melillo leading some laps here from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where, by the way, I believe one of our last times we were here at Vegas with the Cup cars, he was on pole. He was on the front row of the field and did a good job holding up the front of the field of the 53. Doing a nice job here, leading some laps. But, of course, he is getting caught by Adam Cabot, and definitely so. The 53 will have to hit pit road before this Tufco 110 is all said and done. But I do like that call there, Jacob, by the 20 in the 051. I think Corey Heim now notices as Justin Melillo slows down. You're riding on board with him on the left side, and the camera shot on the right side as he wiggles the truck into pit road for his potential final stop here tonight from Las Vegas. That Heim and Shieldhouse, they understand the motive at hand. They know that, all right, this round of pit stops, this was not good comparative to Adam Cabot. We know we're pretty far behind, so why not? Instead of just going side by side, losing more time to your leader, and basically being ourselves on track, why don't we work together? Heim is a non-playoff driver, Shieldhouse is, and so this may reignite the Championship 4 battle from Auto Club just one season ago, as Heim will continue to push to 20, and the gap is down to 3.4 seconds and counting.
Problem is, the gap has gone up. It was 3.2 that last time by. Cabot was a tenth faster than both Shieldhouse and Heim. Same deal here at the start-finish line this time by. So Adam Cabot, he has set sail. He is long gone with now 19 laps to go. Adam Cabot looking to become the championship favorite if he can hold on for these 19 more laps. I really like the 17's chances moving forward in this final round, especially once we go to Atlanta in the next gens. You never know for sure. Good battle, though, for 4th and 5th between Alfredo and Bickford.
I was about to mention a battle for 4th here, as James Bickford will now look to the inside on Alfredo. Of course, Alfredo has had a strong run all evening from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Can't discredit what this 23 has done tonight. Not outright the best truck on track per se, but I think this is still a solid run in the playoff standings comparatively. And, you know, he would rather have an uneventful race as opposed to a guy like Presley Sora or Vargas that had some trouble early on, and they went through basically a roller coaster to get to where they are now. Sora in P6, Vargas in P8 on the track. Still door to door between that position. And Bickford looking to the inside, still trying to make that move happen. That is going to lose them time, though, to Sora. So I think that's good news if you're that 98 saying, all right, you guys are going side by side. Why not? I'll take advantage, and I'll take some more positions here by the time this race is all said and done. Eric, I'll take it back to you. Adam Cabot, 4 seconds ahead of the field. What can Shieldhouse and Heim do if they want to win this race?
I hate to say it, but at this point they have to hope and pray maybe that 43 truck finally oversteps it a little too far and sets off a crash, you know, maybe on the other side of the track away from them. Because, you know, while they may not be in contention to win this race under green, this is still a very solid, very stout points day, at least for David Shieldhouse. I know Corey Heim's just here hunting for wins, but you got to look at the bigger picture. Next week is Daytona. It's all about having a solid, non-eventful day here at Las Vegas. Protect the points lead you have, and that's what David Shieldhouse in second is doing. James Bickford doing a pretty good job in fourth. Anthony Alfredo fifth. Presley Sora rebounding after that early trouble on lap 1 to run sixth. If they can just close this out there in the top 10, top 5, still a decent points day, all things considered.
That is definitely true. A good point, Eric. And we talked about the dangers of the bumpy Daytona with the ARCA cars. And if you could just walk away with the top 10, you see it. Multiple drivers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drivers in the top 10 currently running for the Season 5 title. They need a deserving points day just so they can escape into Daytona alive and well. You take a look at the playoff standings as it goes. 4 points separating the last spot in after our round of 10. It's Colin Fern, 4 points out, 5 points respectively for the 21 of Kennan, who had problems earlier on tonight after getting spun on the front straightaway. And Gary Sexton hasn't necessarily had a highlight-worthy performance here from Las Vegas. He's ran a solid race, but it just has not been good enough to stack up with the amount of drivers, the bulk of them, in this top 10. You ride on board with the Battle Beaver Toyota Tundra TRD Pro. And I am hearing, Jacob, some words on the radio. Adam Cabot, I think there may be some complications trying to get around lap traffic. Josh Slate, Ford Martin right in front of him at a turn 4.
And Josh Slate is like a brick wall. He will not move. Cabot is frustrated, saying, I'm trying to win the race here. These guys are now closing in on me because I can't pass you. What's the deal here? And I mean, he is just sitting right in his line. He's going to go to the outside. Slate blocks him. Now he almost wrecks. He goes down to the apron and gets out of the way. Makes himself a nice little chicane. Josh Slate not doing a good job of racing these playoff guys, perhaps the way he would want to be raced if he was in the playoffs. And I do want to mention one more thing. Looking at that playoff grid, the 7 guys that are currently in are the 7 guys that are currently in the top 10.
That's how even things are, Jacob. I think that's as miraculous as you can think about playoff battle here in the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. We are well in our Toby Christie 20 to go marker, and it's Adam Cabot at the front of the field, and those issues with Josh Slate lost him time, and at one point on the racetrack it cost him 0.3 of a lap. In fact, last lap it did 32.3 for Cabot, 32 flat for David Shieldhouse and Corey Heim. 3.2 seconds now separate the 17 from the 20 and the 051 coming into the final 10 laps in this Tufco 110.
How about this battle for fourth once again between the 29 of James Bickford and the 23 of Anthony Alfredo. Whoa, Bickford steps out. Big moment for the 29 coming off turn number 2. Anthony Alfredo roars by on the outside. He will triumphantly retake that 4th position and leave the 29 in his dust.
And that sparked up the 98 Presley Sora. I talked about the fact that if they stay side by side, it would bring in the Road to Glory champion into the mix, and indeed it has. Bickford, you ride on board with him on the left side of the rear end of the Toyota Tundra, and the right side is camera as he enters turn 1. He had a huge moment there on the bumps, by the way, which we haven't really talked about. He gets loose again this time, trying to look underneath the 43 of Lane Sabile, and here comes Presley Sora for 5th.
An amazing day for Presley Sora. Doesn't even begin to describe what all he's been through. He's able to get by that 29, and all of a sudden James Bickford, at one point we thought he may be the guy to win this race, and ill-handling race truck now slides him back to 6th. The good news is he's got a 2-second cushion to Bailey Turner back in the 7th spot. The bad news is he's still got 9 laps to go. He's going to be clinging on to that truck for every single one of those 9 laps.
This is going to hurt for Bickford here. We saw it at the tail end of one of our previous runs where at least when you get down to these laps and the rear tires start to wear, Bickford is definitely as loose as you can get. And it hurt him on the racetrack.
You've got Gabe Wood slow on the front straightaway. He got loose, almost got the wall off turn 4, mowed the grass, now hits the apron. Mark Rabilis is going to do the same thing. That was right in front of Cabot. Cabot went roaring by on the outside, no issue for him. Thought it could have been an issue for him, though, because that was very, very scary, having a slower truck come back up into the racing surface as the leader is trying to just rattle off lap times. I'm sure that got the pulse going for the 17 of Adam Cabot.
Oh, it's been going for the 17, no doubt about it. Working through lap traffic. I think that Slate moment set him off, and then now every single time he comes across the lap truck, he's thinking, please, 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 no trouble at all. We have a workaround here. Presley Sora looking outside on Anthony Alfredo. They were breaking around one of the lap trucks there.
Oh my! Sabile!
Sabile! Oh my goodness.
I just saw the smoke. Alfredo's out of control in front of him. I don't know if he was just watching the 43 slide and thought, yeah, that looks like fun. But Presley Sora is going to take over the 4th spot now. He went 3 wide with Alfredo and Josh Slate. A great move from Sora. He's now 4th. The rear end gets picked up off the ground by Alfredo. He's all over the back bumper of that 98. He's going to try and do everything he can to get that 4th spot back coming off turn 2.
They're slipping and sliding all over this Las Vegas Motor Speedway like an adventure at Coco Cay. Here comes Alfredo inside at turn 3 on Sora. Remember, this is a championship battle we're talking about in the playoffs. Almost contact between the two. Bickford trying to hang on as the 3rd truck in it. Again, they almost touch coming out at turn 4. And for sure, Jacob, they're losing time to Heim, who's currently rounding out your top 3. But a stellar battle that could be a pivotal points change by the time we get to Daytona next week.
Great run from Alfredo on the inside. Let's see what that 98 can pull on the outside. A great run from the top, and don't forget about Bickford. He's got a good run back there. He is starting to get back into this conversation as well. It could be a 3-car battle for 4th. Coming to 4 laps to go. The heat is on between all 3 of these playoff guys, trying to get everything they can.
And then when we talked to Eric on whether Shieldhouse and Heim needed something, he said probably a caution Well, these guys don't want to be a part of it, going side by side. Bickford invited back into the mix. You watch the battle for that cut line now dead even between the 55 of Rogers and the 86 of Colin Fern. You look at the 23 and the 98, their difference, 13 points to the good for your playoff points leader coming into tonight. 8 points to the good for Anthony Alfredo. Again, this could be the difference between making the next round and not running for a Season 5 title at all if things go awry. At Daytona next week, they come out of turn 4. Adam Cabot grabs 3 laps to go in the Tufco 110, still going at it for P4.
Yeah, Cabot's losing a little bit of time to the guys in second place, but it's not enough. The gap is just over, or just inside 3 seconds, 2.9 seconds the gap. Not going to be enough for them to catch him without a caution. He'll be coming to 2 to go this time. You ride him over that 29 at Bickford. He had a big bobble, so did Sora. That's going to allow that 23 to pull away a little bit. I wonder if Alfredo maybe saved just enough tire to stay out in front coming to 2 to go.
This may help Bickford here. You're right on board. That gap grew just a little bit now that they've single filed out. So I think Bickford is just pleading for these guys. Please, please go side by side again. I need to gain some of these valuable points. And guess who's on the rear side of this as well if things go terribly wrong? Bailey Turner in the 5. That Cabot eSports truck. We haven't talked about him all night long after starting in P4 tonight, but the 5 may be in the running for these positions if things change dramatically, but it'll be Adam Cabot in the 17, the Glen Gardner, New Jersey native, to the white flag from Las Vegas.
If he wasn't the championship favorite coming into season number 5, after leaving on top with the championship a season ago, he is pulling out every stop now that we're in the playoffs. There is no doubt about it in my mind. The guy driving the number 17 has to be part of your championship 4 going into this next round, and he's going to lock himself into it right here.
He hoisted the Bob Jenkins Trophy in Season 4, and he's going to try to get back to the very same spot. Welcome to the round of 7. Adam Cabot wins the Tufco 110 from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. David Shieldhouse caps off a remarkable charge to the front. Not enough for the win, but for second on the racetrack, Corey Heim rounds out your top 3. Alfredo and Sora, looks like they wreck going into turn 1. Alfredo wins that battle against Sora. Bickford finishes in P6, and Jacob, your pick goes to victory lane tonight from Vegas.
Thanks for picking Colin Fern. I wouldn't have picked Cabot if it wasn't for you picking Fern.
I knew it. It's a blessing in disguise. I'll say that.
Yes, sir.
Adam Cabot, he will burn it down on the front straightaway. A huge win on his playoff run to go 2 in a row championship-wise. And this win will be the 3rd of his career in M&R after winning IndyCar in Indianapolis a couple of seasons back, his rookie campaign, getting a win of the Xfinity cars at Chicagoland in his championship season, and now doing it once again. His first win of Season 5 comes tonight from Las Vegas as he burns it down. And like you said, Jacob, if he's not a favorite after this win, then I don't know what will seal the deal. Cabot locked in, not having to worry about bumpy Daytona 1 week from tonight, and looking to get back to the very same spot he was earlier this year in February, hosting the trophy. And he will park it there on the front straightaway. We have ourselves another different winner in Season 5. Let's roll through your unofficial results here from the Tufco 110 from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. A huge green flag run all the way to the end after our opening caution shook us up just a bit. Adam Cabot, his first win of the season, comes here tonight in quite possibly one of the most important times in his run for back-to-back. Shieldhouse comes home again with another finish worth remembering in P2, rebounding after 8th place 1 week ago with the Legacy, or rather with the Legacy Texas combo and the Xfinity Series cars. Corey Heim still impressing here in the sim. Despite being one of the newer drivers entering M&R this season, he rounds out your top 3. Alfredo, Sora, and Bickford, got to give them credit for some of the great entertainment in our top 5 near the end of the race. Alfredo wins that battle. Sora finishes in 5th. It'll be James Bickford for Charlotte Phoenix, who started on pole tonight. He finishes in that 6th position. A nice job by Bailey Turner. Didn't talk about him all too much tonight, but he kind of stealthily worked his way to the top 10. 7th is where he'll finish at the end of this one. Ryan Vargas, much like Presley Sora, had problems earlier on in the race, caused one of our cautions, and somehow he rebounds to 8th. So a huge win for Vargas. He's going to be very happy about that going into next week. Colin Fern, not the greatest night for my pick tonight in the 86. It looks like he will be rebounding from under the cut line at Daytona next week. Nick Olson for Grit Esports. Jacob Hitz rounds out your top 10.
Will Rogers, another playoff guy, he finds himself on the cut line. He is in right now, I believe, with the tiebreaker. He sits 11th. Garrett Smithley, who had to rush home to his rig, he finishes 12th tonight. DJ Cummings, a good run for him. He finishes in 13th. Gary Sexton, he's going to be on the outside looking for some help next week at Daytona. He finishes in the 14th spot. Max Kennan finishes 15th. Matt Stolnick finishes in 16th and one lap down. Everybody behind. You've got Justin Malillo in 17th, Ford Martin in 18th, 19th to Gabe Wood, George Balfans Jr. A couple of incidents early. He rebounds, though, finishes in position number 20.
It'll be 21st for the 01 of Josh Slate, who we saw had a moment in front of your leader, Adam Cabot, on the back straightaway. 21st as well, he'll finish after starting there. Seth Eggert in the 57 for kicking the tires. He will be 22nd. Dakota Curtis had some troubles with contact. Ryan Vargas in turn 3. Couldn't really rebound after that. He finishes one lap down in 23rd. It'll be Steve Alfont in the 11. He will be 24th on the racetrack at the end of it. Mike Clay for ESPN NFL. He will be in the top 25 at the end of our race. It'll be 2 laps down. The first driver on that group for the 27 of Michael Massey. Not the great ending that Leighton Sibile would have wanted, especially after hitting the outside wall at a turn 2 that could have caused a caution. Some loose moments out of that 43. He brings it home 27th. It'll be 28th for the 84 of Case Kalamak. Mark Rabillis finishes 29th. 30th for the 4 of Brett Baldick. We saw him in that crash with Ryan Vargas. And it'll be Robbie Lyons, 4 laps down in 31st, bringing up the rear. He brings in our DoorDash award here tonight in the Tufco 110 from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It is our time, though, to head trackside and catch up with your race winner. It's his first win of Season 5, third in his M&R career. Adam Cabot back to the winner's circle here tonight from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And Adam, one of the first things that came to mind when I heard Las Vegas was on the schedule and that you were one of the more consistent drivers in a playoff one at that going into tonight, I thought of that finish out of turn 4. You, Alfredo, and Garrett Smithley, you lost the battle on that end, but you rebound in dominating fashion to get the win and to lock yourself into the round of 7. How does it feel?
Yeah, I guess this is kind of redemption in a way then, isn't it? But yeah, how about that? That's the drought is over. It's cool to finally get a win this season. It was kind of bugging me a little bit. I feel like I think I've led like all of the playoff races so far and just haven't been able to close it out during the regular season or the playoffs. But yeah, it's awesome to get back in victory lane, to not have to worry about next week. I mean, now I can actually look forward to next week. ARCA at Old Daytona, that's going to be fun as hell. But as a playoff driver with eliminations, that definitely makes you nervous. So I'll be the only playoff driver who's not nervous next week. But also playoff points. When I saw the points reset last week and saw that I was already like 9 behind Presley and a bunch of points behind David and more of the playoff guys than not who are remaining had playoff points. And with the fast guys all being so close and with it only being a 2-race round, I kind of realized that if I didn't win a race this round, it was going to be tough to point my way in next round. So awesome to get this win here. I don't really know. I guess from talking to Corey there, he was a little conservative on his first round of pit stops on pit entry, and I feel like I kind of nailed it. And I guess that's how I got that like 3-second or so gap. And once I did, it kind of just maintained around there, went a little bit higher, a little bit lower towards the end. But yeah, that was the key, because if I didn't get a really good stop and if he didn't have a bad stop there, we would have all probably been draft packed together. So yeah, it was kind of just smooth sailing from there after the first stop, and just the whole rest of the way just praying for it to stay green, really.
And Green Flag Racing, I think, has certainly helped you, especially in history, the past 2 races. And second place finish with the Xfinity cars at Legacy, Texas, a first place finish tonight. What has gone behind this run? And you said it, like, not having the win up until this point and getting that monkey off of your back. What has gone behind this momentous run, this second place at a track that really tested a majority of the field, and then tonight that went down to that strategy and you dominating the last half of the race to win?
Well, I think you said half of it in your question there, which is that we're finally getting some long green flag runs, which really lets a race play out. I was thinking this race was probably going to be more of a pack race, but we had a setup that was loose and hard to drive. So between having long green runs and a setup that's difficult to drive and works more off the right rear than the right front, those are 2 things that definitely play into my favor. And it probably wasn't the most exciting race to watch there towards the end, but as a driver, I forget who said this last week, but I'll just kind of second the same thing, which is that as a driver, those are the races you live for, because it's really just on you. If you perform or don't perform, you can't really go pointing fingers when nobody wrecks you, and you don't have any cautions coming out to screw up your strategy. It's just all kind of on you. So, yeah, awesome to get that win there. Hopefully we can continue this momentum, and I'm just looking forward to having fun next week.
You know what was kind of funny about you, the first answer there was that you were like relieved that ARCA Daytona was not a place where you would have to fight for your playoff life. I know a lot of drivers, especially in the playoffs, not looking forward to that race, but you get to go into there practically carefree about your points position because you're going to be locked into the next round. But I know that in some way, the lifting of the Bob Jenkins Trophy last season definitely maybe still lingering in your mind. And with this win, how much confidence does it give you to go back to that very same spot and the championship for Homestead Miami Speedway?
I'll be honest, I'm feeling really confident because if we still, if we keep up this green flag racing and keep up with setups that take some skill to drive and are loose and you can maneuver around the track, because the championship race, I believe, is Homestead with the trucks. So, there's a lot of good competition in this league. A lot of guys who I think haven't fully showed their cards yet. I was surprised that Presley wasn't up here, really. David was closing in on me towards the end. There's a lot of quality drivers in this league, so it's not going to be easy by any means. But, there's no better way to build confidence for that final race than doing well tonight, because this is the most similar race we have on the schedule, the finale. So, just one step closer, I guess, to going back to back.
Well, I can officially say here, you've made two people proud from the team. Jacob Pitts, he picked you on tonight, so Jacob, very happy that you were able to go to victory lane tonight. I know, obviously, Cam and our social media manager, I know she's not here tonight. Nicholas Weatherby on our socials here this evening from Las Vegas, but she sponsored your car a couple of times, the MX-5, so I'm pretty sure she'll definitely be happy from wherever she is. I know you've got your first win of Season 5. Adam, of course, on behalf of our entire team here at Podium eSports, want to send you a huge congratulations on the win here tonight in the Tufco 110 from Las Vegas. Best of luck moving forward to the playoffs, but welcome to the round of 7. You earned it.
Thanks, Kenneth. Appreciate it.
That's Adam Cabot in the 17, heading for the next round on August 15th with the Indy cars at Auto Club Speedway. That'll be the next time we see him fighting for points. He is clear for the Daytona ARCA combo next week, but we would turn our attention to another playoff driver and another Championship 4 Titan from one season ago. Jacob Hitz, you're caught up with David Shieldhouse.
I'm starting to think he's got a seat reserved at the table here as far as post-race interviews go. This is 5 out of the last 6. You finished inside the top 3. Another strong run.
Jacob, I'm telling you, ever since we got away from that goofy stuff and started doing what we usually do, stock cars on ovals, my performance has been through the roof. But again, remember, I did win on a road course in a Miata, so we can't put too much stock in that. But another great performance, another great run for the Xyloware number 20 Chevy Silverado. I got to go back to the tape and figure out how I lost all that time to Cabot. I'm just going to blame Anthony Alfredo and being slow onto pit road because he didn't practice it. He's still my driver, but we gave him a little ribbon because he was a little ginger getting onto pit road. I think we lost some time there, but Adam did a great job. I had a fun time battling with Corey Heim. Let me tell you. He's one of the best ones out there that I could race against right now, and to beat him feels good, but to race hard with him, clean, always enjoyable. But points, baby, big points. If we couldn't win, second's the next best option. I think I'll be breathing a lot easier than a lot of people going into bumpy Daytona next week.
You're leading the points, 14 points above the cut line going into Daytona next week. What are your thoughts going into what could be anybody's race?
As I told Eric in the pre-race show, it's a total crapshoot. And we've seen enough examples between Moon Car, Rod Car, Shield Car. Pick your favorite hosted race at Bumpy Daytona and ARCA cars, and all hell could break loose at any moment. And I hope people do their homework. Me and Corey were just talking about that, where you can't bump draft in those cars. We've seen it in the core league. Jacob, you know that better than anybody.
Yes, sir.
You can't bump in those cars. And so I know there's a certain percentage of people who are going to come into this race not knowing that. Hopefully they figure it out in practice before we get into the race. And it's going to be hard to pass. You can't really go 3 wide there because of the bumps and the width of the cars. It's really hard. So track position is going to be important. I just don't know what to expect, but I feel like, short of a win, Cabot would be the only person breathing easy next week, but I guess I'm next in line for the easiest of breathing. Plus 14 doesn't sound like a lot, but a lot of things can happen where it's going to be enough. Just have to put myself in the right position, take care of the car, and hope that we have some good luck. That's usually what these things boil down to.
in case any drivers want to go out and start taking notes, start watching some film, the course season 4 at Daytona, the bumpy Daytona, that might be the best example. I think you have 2 different versions of that you can go see. It could help a lot going into next week, and I'm being genuinely serious about that. I believe both laps are 80, or both races were 80 laps too. So it fits right into the wheelhouse for next week. Speaking of house, David Shieldhouse, second place finisher tonight. Congratulations on the top 2. We'll see you next week from Daytona.
Thank you, Jacob. Yeah, that's a good point. I got some homework to do just to, it never hurts to be prepared for things. I like being prepared. But again, big shout out to all the supporters here of the number 20 team, Xyloware, TobyChristie.com, Next Level Racing, Advanced GG, the Charlotte Phoenix, and everybody at twitch.tv/Shieldhouse. We gave them a good show tonight. They appreciated it. We're excited. We'll see y'all at Bumpy Daytona next week.
David Shieldhouse, your second place finisher from Las Vegas. He's singing Viva Las Vegas. Now let's go over to Eric to talk with our third place finisher, Corey Heim.
Another strong run, another great finish for Corey Heim. Corey, what more did you need there to potentially run down eventual winner Adam Cabot?
Yeah, it's hard to say. There's days in racing where you kind of know where you messed up, and that's kind of why you lost the race. And there's days where it's kind of frustrating because you don't really know where you messed up, and you still lose the race. So I don't know. I think it was kind of a multitude of things. My first green flag pit stop was a little rough, a little slow, too conservative, and my pace in the second round may have needed some work too. But I felt like I put an overall really solid race together, and that just kind of goes to show you how solid these guys are in this league. And Adam, he's so good at saving tires and just putting a full fuel run together. And David was really fun to race with as well. I tried to make a run at him there late in the end. It didn't quite happen. So, overall good run today. Definitely just kind of want to win races since I'm not in the playoffs or anything, but definitely a pleasure to be a part of it.
Yeah, it was great to see you out there. Very competitive, of course. Were you surprised at all that this race came down to a strategy event? Early on, we talked to a few drivers. They weren't sure exactly what direction this race was going to go. Was it going to feel like a low-key pack race? But it really turned into strategy and tire conservation. Did that surprise you at all?
It's funny because like a lot of things in real life racing are kind of the similar situation where you kind of figure like, in cup racing, a low downforce, high horsepower package is so hard to drive. Like it's going to spark cautions and it's going to do this, going to do that, make a lot more restarts and make it more competitive. But in all reality, people are almost afraid to get near each other because it's so hard to drive, and it kind of spreads us out a little bit and makes us conserve. So it's kind of, opposite of what you would think, but I think everyone was pretty, cautious around each other. It's a playoff race, so your handful of guys that are in the playoffs are really conservative, and the guys who aren't are trying to win the race, so they're trying to, at least make it to the end. So no one was really racing super tight. I mean, there were people who were, but not as tight as you would be if it drove really good and then it was completely hooked up. So kind of same deal at Texas last week. You had your guys who really pushed hard at the beginning and started sliding around, and guys who saved and were there at the end, and that also made it a really good race as well. So I think that's what it really came down to at the end.
Well, you continue to be the non-playoff driver, spoiling the party up front. Very fun to watch. Will we see you at a bumpy Daytona next week?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Those ARCA cars are going to be rough. The fact that you can't hook bumpers and push people, but we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Well, we appreciate you putting on a show tonight, Corey Heim. Another solid finish. Best of luck next week.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So that is Corey Heim in the 051, rounding out your top 3 here tonight in the Tufco 110 from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's time to take a sigh of relief and then try to prep back up for what's going to happen 1 week from tonight. The bumpy Daytona track with the ARCA cars. Jacob, it is going to be an unbelievable show. And from what I can tell, based on the interviews and even before that, there are a lot of guys not looking forward to that race. They know it's going to be something crazy. They know it's going to be something that they want to avoid in terms of crashing and all the chaos that goes with it. We're going to be in for a crazy show 1 week from tonight.
I love it. I can't wait for it next week. I have so much fun calling the plate races. Something about the bumpy Daytona with the ARCA cars, it just makes the racing so much better than it already is at plate tracks. You can't push in the cars, like we've talked about already. You try to push the way those bumpers are. You just pick the rear tires up off the guy in front of you and you turn them. So you have to be really careful when you're in the draft. You are just on edge every single lap under green, and I can't wait to see what these guys are gonna do in this race next week. It's going to be a lot of fun for us to watch. I believe we're bringing back a little bit of radio-style broadcasting next week, which I'm not going to complain about whatsoever. It's going to be a lot of fun next week, and you know, we're going to have a championship battle really form in front of our eyes with this race. I know we've got another round to go, but we're going to lose 3 drivers here after the race next week. I kind of have a general consensus on how 2 out of the 3 might be, based off the way points look tonight. We'll have to wait and see if we have a spoiler, maybe spoil the party next week. Gary Sexton goes out and wins the thing next week. Well, hello, that kind of shuffles everything, and somebody that may have looked safe coming in to Daytona could be on the outside looking in, and that's part of the mystery that goes around with Daytona is you never know what you're going to get until you get it. And that's what all 10 of these guys are going to have to plan for next week is expect the unexpected. If you didn't get the points to seal the deal to get out of this round from tonight's race, you're going to be looking back not at Daytona. You're going to be looking back right here at Las Vegas, looking at any mistake you made along the way and say, that's what may have cost me a shot at racing for a Monday Night Racing Championship.
That's a great point. We'll touch on that a little bit more going into Daytona. I think if there's one thing that we know for certain is that when Blake McCandless, our usual play-by-play commentator, comes back in the booth, we're going to have to train him a little bit. We're going to have to train ourselves, too, for what's going to be a wild race from bumpy Daytona. That comes your way 1 week from tonight, August 8th. You'll have the coverage here, starting with Eric Esteps out of the Groove pre-race show, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, August 8th, right here on Podium Esports, and of course, all of the socials for Podium and Eric Esteps' YouTube channel, Out of the Groove. But for everyone that makes it all happen here at Monday Night Racing, for Ford Martin and Paul Sutton, for Josh Mendoza in race control, for Gary Sexton and John Theodore here at Podium Esports, for our camera builder Gary Sexton, our overlay builder Michael Hall, Nicholas Weatherby on our Podium Esports social media, and for our crew on tonight's broadcast, our pre-race host Eric Estep, our producer Ryan Bauer, of course Derek Watson for all the stats and all of us that it gives us here in the broadcast booth, and of course my colleague right beside me, Jacob Hitz. My name is Kenneth Bueno, saying so long and good night from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We'll see you 1 week from tonight at the bumpy Daytona with the ARCA cars, but for now, Adam Cabot locked in to the round of 7.